Call this meeting back to order. We're now back in open session. If I could have Councilors Hoyle and Bodner move that council rise and reconvene from closed session at 6:41 p.m. with report 4.1 approval of closed session minutes. The following closed session minutes be approved. Special council meeting closed session May 23rd, 2026. And staff reports that report 2026-83 be received. The staff follow the direction provided in closed session in accordance with the Municipal Act for items A, B, and C. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. At this time, if you're able, please stand for our national anthem, followed by our land acknowledgement.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command, car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
The Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations such as the Hattaway-Wendourok, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Port Colborne stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live.
At this time, we do have a statutory public meeting this evening. Item 8.1 is public meeting report for proposed expansion to Main Street Community Improvement Plan area, vacant land, Neff Street, 2026-55. We'll open the public meeting for the proposed expansion to the Main Street Community Improvement Plan area, vacant land on Neff Street. And I'll turn this over to Bram Cotton for a brief overview.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This public meeting is in regards to an application to add some vacant land on Neff Street to the Main Street Community Improvement Plan area. The process has been followed. The applicant has followed the process. It meets all the criteria to be added, and we'd like to take this forward to a council meeting for a decision by council. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Cotton. Any questions to Mr. Cotton at this time? Because we will go to delegations if there are any. You want to wait? Okay. With regards to this item only, are there any delegations to this item? Seeing none, I'll move this and get it on the floor. If I could have Councilors Bruno and Begg move the Planning and Development Department Report 2026-55 be received, and the Council direct Planning and Development Department staff to bring forward a recommendation report. Questions? Councilor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, if I could, to the Chief Planner. Certainly the idea of CIPs and expansion of CIPs is not foreign to us, and it's made sense in many of the cases where we've done it before in the downtown area, King Street, Main Street. My concern on this one is that, yes, it is a wraparound onto Neff Street. Yes, it is a vacant lot. And you know, for so much of this last term, with the amount of realistic development and the amount that are people getting permissions and either land banking or sitting on things, my concern is that it is, and many, I'm sure residents, some here tonight can attest to the fact that sometimes with the rules that they are now in Ontario, that it's difficult to get some movement, particularly on density and parking. And so we've gone to, I think it's the OLT 3 times, or maybe 2, with limited success, if no success, because a lot of the die is cast on some of the developments. My only concern with this is, in this case, the council is leading the way with the option to extend the CIP. And so I wouldn't want to be the architect of something wanting to be built there that the council may at the end of the day not like or disagree with parking or things like that. And so I'm wondering if there's a possibility that we could see what the potential landowner wants to build there. And so in order to, we have one shot to have some real say in this. And I understand from yourself and others, a developer with a good record, he has some buildings in Port Colborne that I know I've driven by and didn't know they were his or his firm, and they were very good. But I'm just wondering what you think of the concept of us being able to see what we're creating this opening for, as opposed to reacting once we make the opening.
Eric?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor, and I suppose just to clarify, the approval of a CIP or a CIP extension for this particular property is not to be confused with presupposing a future planning approval for development on that site. It's my understanding that that site's currently zoned for residential fourth density. I believe that the applicant has expressed interest in building 6 residential units on that property. I haven't seen a design for that yet, but certainly if, you know, the presentation of a design for a future concept was something that council felt could help support the CIP extension, we could put that request to the applicant to provide that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a time-sensitive issue, and I don't expect the developer to go through a detailed architectural plan and do all the studies for something that I'm sure the CIP extension is going to be necessary for him to go through that kind of expense. So if it's not, I think it's not a bad issue when we have the opportunity, representing the neighborhood and the city, to see what the plan is to go in there, because I certainly feel that the little bit I've heard, I could be supportive, but I don't want to deal with this, quite honestly, after the fact and have some regrets. And I know in the past, some of my fellow councilors have been frustrated with the ability of council to assist the neighbors and make sure we don't have, and we probably, I'm not going to say the addresses on some streets where things have been built and is high and doesn't look right, and we perhaps didn't have a lot of say in that. Here we have a say, and so I'd like to exercise that option, but it's up to my colleagues as well.
Eric?
Through the mayor, I may just defer to my colleague, Mr. Cotton. I'm not sure if this is associated with additional incentives, regional, for example, that do have a timeline.
Mr. Cotton?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Eric and to council, it does not. It's not time sensitive from that perspective. What I was going to suggest is they have not done a CIP application. Sure. This is just an application to expand the area so that they can be included. We could make it a requirement, or we could ask them with when their application for the CIP comes forward, that they include the design with that, so that that could be shown to council at the time, so you know what the incentives are that you are providing and what the design does, and that also it would meet all of the planning requirements at that time.
So effectively a condition of the CIP being in place. I'm fine with that.
Okay. Any further questions? So, councilor, you'll need to make an amendment Well, this is just a public meeting, so we really don't need that right now. But when it does come forward, you'll have to make an amendment. Okay, further questions? Okay, thanks, Brant. Thanks, Eric. So we are directing staff to bring this back. Further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Okay. I'd like to thank everyone. The public meeting is officially closed. If you have any other comments, please forward them to the city clerk at portcolborne.ca. We have two proclamations this evening. We have Proclamation 9.1, World Hepatitis Day, July 28th, 2026, moved by Councillor Bruno, seconded by Councillor Hoyle. Therefore, I, William C. Steele, Mayor of the City of Port Colborne, do hereby proclaim July 28th, 2026, World Hepatitis Day in Port Colborne. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. And our second proclamation, 9.2, is June is Seniors Month 2026, moved by Councillors Aquilina and Councillor Bodner. Now, therefore, I, Mayor William C. Steele, do hereby proclaim June 1st to June 30th, 2026, as Seniors Month in the City of Port Colborne. Questions? All in favor? That's carried. We have one presentation this evening in regards to the Senior Month Award. It's in recognition of Dorothy Santarella, and I'll have Councillor Aquilina meet me at the podium. So on behalf of the Director of Museum and Culture, I'm pleased to announce the recipient of the Senior of the Year Award, presented in partnership with the Port Colborne Seniors Advisory Committee. This year's recipient is Dorothy Santarella, whose decades of dedicated service and unwavering commitment to seniors advocacy and wellness has left a lasting impact on our community. Together with her husband, Dorothy helped organize the bocce courts at the Port Colborne Senior Center, creating a cherished amenity that continues to be enjoyed by many and stands as a lasting legacy of her commitment to enhancing the lives of seniors in Port Colborne. Dorothy has also been an active member of the Catholic Women's League at St. John Bosco Catholic Church, guided by the organization's motto, Light, Unity, Love, and Peace. She has devoted countless hours to serving both her parish and the broader community. Her passion for preserving local heritage has been equally noteworthy. Dorothy served on the Port Colborne Historical and Marine Museum Board, where she assisted with the creation and maintenance of the heritage gardens and supported efforts to preserve the city's history through fundraising initiatives. Most recently, she volunteered as a participant in a community curator exhibit that celebrated her Mennonite heritage and highlighted her many years of volunteer service. Much of Dorothy's work across numerous organizations has focused on fostering inclusion, supporting community events, and strengthening the social fabric of Port Colborne. Through her dedication, she has helped create a welcoming and vibrant community for residents of all ages. Dorothy currently serves on the Port Colborne Seniors Advisory Committee and has dedicated more than 25 years to the municipality in this role. Working alongside fellow committee members, she has taken great pride in providing advice and recommendations to council on issues affecting seniors and promoting initiatives that make Port Colborne a more age-friendly community for people of all ages and abilities. On behalf of the City of Port Colborne, we extend our heartfelt congratulations and sincere gratitude to Dorothy for her outstanding service and lasting contributions. Her dedication, compassion, and community spirit exemplify the very essence of the Senior of the Year Award. Dorothy, come on forward. We will go up and do a photo for the front. Yep. Oh yeah, go on ahead. Go ahead.
Go on ahead. I'm nervous and I don't like being nervous. I was surprised and I don't like being surprised. But this is wonderful. I'm just overwhelmed. So thank you very much. And excuse me if I stumble with what I want to say. Mr. Mayor and Council and our wonderful Seniors Advisory Committee, thank you very much. And to anyone else that's been involved in this, thank you. Stephanie, I'll get even with you later. Thank you, I love you. There's a saying that someone has put forth, and it goes like, there is a destiny that makes us brothers and sisters. None goes his way alone. All that we give to the others comes back into our own. And it's certainly, my husband and I, of 68 years, have made many wonderful friends and have many lasting memories through our involvement with the different committees and organizations, and whatever we've done to serve our community has just been a good thing for us. And God bless everybody. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, Council, and our committee, and everyone here. Thank you.
Great. So I'll read the award. It says 2026 Senior of the Year Award, presented to Dorothy Santarella by the municipality of the city of Port Colborne in recognition of outstanding contributions after age 65 that strengthen and protect our communities. Signed, the Honorable Raymond Cho, Minister of Seniors and Accessibility. Her Honor, the Honorable Edith Dumont, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, and William C. Steele, Head of Council.
Thank you very much.
The age, though, you're not that yet. So this is premature. This is you're not that yet.
Yeah, right. They got it wrong. I'll be 86 in August.
And we have Council Aquilina. Nice
Thank you very much.
bouquet of flowers.
Thank you. Oh, my goodness, I think my knees
I'll
are.
carry them.
You better carry them. My knees are
come on.
shaking.
Let's go up front here.
Okay, where am I going?
This way.
Just following. Okay.
And we thank our members of our museum, friends and family for coming out here to support Dorothy this evening. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Next, we go to our delegations. We have one delegation this evening, but I'm going to turn this over to the clerk because of what they're delegating on is the reconsideration motion, and just to make sure that both the delegates and council follow the rules.
So pursuant to the city's procedural bylaw and Robert's Rules of Order, any delegation should be limited to speaking to the reasons for or against the reconsideration. The merits of the original resolution should not be revisited by the delegate, and the delegate's comments should focus on new information rather than reiterating prior submissions to council. And similarly for council, a debate on a motion for reconsideration will be confined to reasons for or against reconsideration.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. So this time I'll call Marcia and Mike McCready. And there's a red button on the speaker. Just press that and you're all set. And as you know, you have 10 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council and staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and thank you to Councillor Aquilina for bringing forward this motion. I am here this evening to respectfully ask council to support reconsideration of Resolution C-25078. I want to emphasize that tonight's meeting is a procedural in nature. This is not about asking council to decide who should get a key or anything like that, nor is it about comparing any road allowance to another. We are simply asking council to agree that this matter deserves another review. For many years, residents in our area had access to the gate under the arrangement that was understood and accepted. Following the recommendations adopted in April 2025, many residents who had previously enjoyed access are no longer eligible to apply for a key under the current criteria. What is important tonight is not the ultimate outcome, but the process. I recognize that members of council may hold different views on the merits of this issue, and I respect that. Tonight, I'm not asking anyone to change their position on the substance of the matter. I am simply asking council to allow this issue to come back for further review so that the residents and council alike can benefit from a full discussion before any final conclusions are reached. I was a delegate at the April 2025 meeting and appreciated the opportunity to speak to the report before council. However, some of the recommendations evolved during the discussion itself. And while I had the opportunity to address the report as presented, neither I nor other residents had the opportunity to address the recommendations as they were ultimately amended and then adopted. Furthermore, the practical effects of those recommendations were not fully apparent at the time. It was not until March of 2026 when the city issued its communication confirming the eligibility criteria and the subsequent implementation of the new lock and key system that many residents came to understand the full impact of those changes. At that point, it became clear that long-standing users who had enjoyed access for years would no longer be eligible under this new criteria. Once those implications became clear, residents felt it was appropriate to respectfully ask council to take another look. We are not questioning council's authority or their intentions. We are simply asking that the matter be revisited through a new report and with renewed public input. A vote in favor of reconsideration tonight is not a vote for any particular outcome. It is not a commitment to issue keys, nor does it predetermine a final decision. It simply acknowledges that matters affecting residents deserve to be reviewed carefully and transparently with the benefit of public participation. Council has the ability to reconsider decisions because circumstances sometimes warrant a second look. We believe this issue warrants that opportunity. Regardless of differing opinions, I hope we can all agree that meaningful public input and thorough review strengthen the decisions made by this council. If this motion passes, council will still have every opportunity to receive a new report, hear from residents, ask questions, and make whatever decision it ultimately believes is in the best interests of the community. Tonight, we are simply asking for that opportunity. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I respectfully ask for your support in favor of reconsideration.
Thank you, Ms. Rapiti. Questions to the presenter? Great, thank you very much. Counselor, are there any notices of motion this evening? Okay, we do have one motion, 13.1, request to reconsider resolution C-25-078 regarding the management of the city's waterfront road allowances. Before I put the motion on the floor, I must remind council that it needs 2/3 majority to move forward. So I have Councilors Aquilina and Councilor Bodnar move that council reconsider resolution C-25-078 passed by council on April 15th, 2025 regarding the management of the city's waterfront road allowances. Questions or comments? Councilor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is more of a comment in regards to the motion. As Mrs. McCready indicated, the sentiment that I'm getting from the residents on Wildwood is not so much that they disagreed with the amendments. It's more that they're trying to understand the reasoning behind why Wildwood was not a consideration, similar to how Cedar Bay and Weaver Road were a consideration, to have staff opening the gates. So in the April 15th meeting, staff proposed 8 recommendations for council. Council approved 3, defeated 5, and then Councillor Bodnar proposed 6 new additional recommendations that council approved, and that included staff opening and closing daily Cedar Bay and Weaver Road. And the Wildwood residents, have indicated that they've had a long history of launching watercrafts from that road end, similar to what the reasoning was behind Cedar Bay and Weaver Road. So that's why the motion's before us right now for reconsideration.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Further questions? Councillor Bodnar, or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councillor Aquilina said pretty much everything that we've heard from the residents, and she did a good job on that, so I'll leave it the way she is stated.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Because it needs 2/3 to carry, it's defeated. Okay. So on to the mayor's report. Port Colborne representatives recently attended the 2026 Federation of Canadian Municipalities Annual Conference and Trade Show in Edmonton, Alberta, joining municipal leaders from across Canada to discuss collaboration, innovation, and building strong and resilient communities. Held under the theme, Building the Future Together, this year's conference marked the 125th anniversary of FCM. Throughout the event, delegates participated in sessions focused on housing, infrastructure, economic development, climate resilience, and municipal governance. The insights and ideas shared during the conference will help inform local priorities and support Port Colborne's ongoing efforts to deliver sustainable, responsive, and innovative services for residents. The conference also provided valuable opportunities to build relationships and exchange best practices with communities from across the country. New Indigenous murals have been unveiled across Niagara South Coast, bringing stories, teachings, and connection to the land and water into our communities. Created by Indigenous artists Alicia Lynn Morin, Deb Malcolm, and Christian Montour, these stunning works can now be found in Wainfleet, Pelham, and Port Colborne. Each mural reflects a unique perspective, inviting residents and visitors alike to pause, reflect, and learn more about Indigenous histories, cultures, and worldviews. Unveiled during National Indigenous History Month, these murals are a part of a broader initiative to strengthen Indigenous tourism experiences across our destination. Plan your mural tour and meet the artists at niagarasouthcoast.com/murals. June was a busy month here in Port Colborne, and I'm going to read out a list of celebrations we recognized. Seniors Month celebrated older adults in Port Colborne's commitment as an age-friendly community through programs, services, and partnerships that support active and connected living. And I think we saw one of the best parts of it this evening. Pride Month, we raised the Pride flag at City Hall on June 1st and participate in events supporting Niagara's Pride community, reaffirming our commitment to inclusion and diversity. Crossing Guard Appreciation Week, recognize the dedicated crossing guards who help keep our children safe each and every day. Recreation and Parks Month, promoted local recreational opportunities, including summer camps, pickleball, tennis, beach volleyball, paddleboard and kayak rentals, and more. And National Indigenous History Month, honored the histories, cultures, and contributions of First Nations peoples and highlighted Indigenous authors and stories through the Port Colborne Public Library. Thank you to everyone who joined Port Colborne Fire and Emergency Services for the annual Community Safety Day. Families enjoyed a day filled with interactive exhibits, safety demonstrations, a bike rodeo hosted by the Port Colborne Optimist Club, fire trucks, activities, and complimentary snacks and refreshments. A special thank you to presenting sponsor First Ontario Credit Union for helping make this free community event possible. Thank you as well to our community partners, volunteers, and staff who helped bring the event to life. We love seeing so many residents come together to learn about safety, connect with local emergency services, and enjoy a fun day with family and friends. And we hope to see everybody again next year. And I'm sure the chief will have something to say under staff remarks. But your crew did a fantastic job, Chief. I was pleased to attend the Port Cares greenhouse ribbon cutting ceremony this past Saturday, celebrating another incredible community initiative that will help support local residents. A special thank you to JBL and the Tilling Foundation for their generous support in making this project possible. This year, Port Cares is marking 40 years of serving our community, and to celebrate, they're on a mission to collect 40,000 pounds of food. I think you're going to hear a great announcement about that very shortly. And from May 1st to June 30th for that collection. And you can help by donating at portcares.ca or dropping off food donations at the Reach Out Center, 61 Nickel Street. What a legendary night at H.H. Knoll Lakeview Park this past Friday as Simply Queen kicked off our community concert series presented by Asahi Kasei Battery Separator Canada. Canada's premier Queen tribute band delivered an electrifying performance packed with iconic hits and all the energy and showmanship fans know and love. From start to finish, the crowd was singing and rocking along the timeless music of Queen. There are 5 more community concerts this year. Fiddlesticks on July the 3rd, the Yacht Rock Show on July 17th, Pop Hits Live on August 14th, most of Port Colborne's favorite, the Caverners, on August 28th, and Petty Nicks on September 11th. Remember, our community concerts are free with a non-perishable food or cash donation in support of Port Cares. Thanks to your generosity, we collected an incredible 820 pounds of food last Friday to help support local individuals and families in need. Members of the media, sponsors, and community partners gathered at the Valley Health and Wellness Center last Thursday as the City of Port Colborne unveiled the musical lineup and festival details for the 2026 Canal Days Marine Heritage Festival. And it's presented by Geo Rail. From Friday, July 31st to Monday, August 3rd, the 48th Annual Canal Days Festival returns for a civic holiday long weekend filled with live music, family-friendly entertainment, spectacular fireworks, great food, and more. This year's main stage will be located at H.H. Knoll Lakeview Park, and on Friday, July 31st to Saturday, August 1st, featuring 2 nights of live Canadian music and entertainment. The city is proud to unveil the following performers for this summer. Friday, July 21st, our feature act is Big Wreck, and the opening acts are J.J. Wild and Bleecker, and that's presented by 97.7 Hits FM. And on Saturday, August 1st, the featuring act is the Strumbellas with Bedouin Sound Clash and local Niagara band Street Pharmacy, and that's presented by Dream 105.7. For more information on Canal Days, visit www.canaldays.ca. It was great to see so many families come together yesterday Sunday for the annual Father's Day Fishing Derby at H.H. Knoll Lakeview Park, hosted by the Port Colborne Optimist Club. This year's event welcomed more than 250 children for a fun-filled day of fishing, laughter, and making memories with family and friends. I was pleased to join in the celebrations and present awards to several of the day's lucky anglers for their big catches. The 2 winners, first and second, the largest fish, and they measure by length, was 18 3/4 inches. Second place was 18 1/4 inches. Adding to the excitement of a fantastic community event, a special thank you to the Niagara Regional Police Service, Pokemar, Fisheries and Oceans Canada, and the Port Colborne Lions Club for their support, as well as the many sponsors whose generosity helps make this beloved community event possible year after year. It was a great day to celebrate Father's Day and enjoy the outdoors in Port Colborne. And while I was there, Mark Matthews was the MC, and I asked the crowd when I spoke, how many people were there from Port Colborne. It was the majority. But it was amazing to see how many people are here visiting Port Colborne, either with family and friends who came from out of town. We get people from as far away as Kitchener, London, Hamilton, and the GTA. And some of that, they just come down because they know about the event. The majority of them are here because of family, which is great to see. And this concludes my report. Anybody have any questions? Great, thanks, Council. Next up is Councillor Badaway with our Niagara Regional report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm here to take any questions if City Council has any concerns or questions about Regional Council.
Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Regional Councillor Badaway, for attending tonight. I had mentioned this to you in passing at an event the other day on, I believe it was June 16th. The region was testing water pressure from the plant, I understand, to Reservoir Park. I think they were set up by St. John Bosco Church. I received a phone call about 7:30. It was a lady over on Oakwood Street where we're relining water lines. She had no water pressure and she thought maybe it was them working late. But she had called her mother on the east side and she had virtually no water pressure. And then I received a call from Kinnear Place on Steel Street, and they were lacking pressure or had none. I came to further find out that the region had been doing this testing, and perhaps it went a little sour or sideways. But I just wanted to see if you could speak to them there, that when they're doing something like that and affecting water pressure, I mean, both the particular time when people turn on washers and dishwashers at 7 o'clock with time of use, the fact that it did disturb more than just the area between the plant on King Street and Reservoir Park in other quadrants of the city. That in doing so, if they're doing further testing, could they look at doing it at like 1 a.m. or midnight or sometime when people aren't at a high water use peak? And secondly, if they could get that message around to local councillors so we're kind of not caught off guard. I don't know if any of my other colleagues had that experience, but I just think that the protocol there could be improved. And I'm just wondering if you could research that and come back to us.
The short answer, Councillor, through you, Mr. Mayor, is yes. 3 unfortunate situations happened on both days, 16th and 17th. And you're right, it was a situation that happened unexpectedly. And with that, my first point is that they should have been doing the work later in the evening when people don't have their washers going, their dishwashers, and they're not using water, taking showers, things of that nature. So you're absolutely right. And yes, I will follow up on that. Second point is that when something like that does happen, although unexpected, a quick blast, at the very least, to the staff here in the city, as well as to the councillors, so you do have a heads up on it and you can respond to the calls that I'm sure you received, would be appropriate. Lastly is a proper protocol in place, and I'm sure the engineering division, the operations division here in Port Colborne would relate that you always work with the expectation that it may go sideways. And of course, you're prepared for that, and all the above, point 1 and 2 then kick in. If all goes well, that's great, wonderful. But we all know within operations, things do go sideways once in a while, and we have to prepare for that. So you can be rest assured that I'll be dealing with it at the region.
Thank you, Regional Rep.
Thanks, Councillor. Further questions to Councillor Badaway? Great, thanks, Dan. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hoyle.
I was just thinking, is there any, when it has to do with the transit, is there any legal way about getting a bus stop on the east side yet?
Yeah, we're having those discussions now that the budget was ratified by Regional Council. We are looking at new scheduling and new areas of which stops will be placed, both in Southern Niagara, both in Fort Erie and Port Colborne. So that discussion is underway, and I'm hoping to have an answer within the next month or so.
Thank you.
And for Councillor Danch, too, Mr. Mayor, he did bring up a situation over on Main Street that was taken care of. Lastly, Mr. Mayor, I have been getting some, or at least one call, I won't say some calls, but one call from a resident over on the corner of Main Street in Fielden with respect to the parking across from St. John Bosco Church. I think it's imperative that UI and operations have a discussion. It is a provincial/delegated regional road. And the concern is the sight lines coming off of Fielden onto Main Street and parking there across from St. John Bosco's Church existing, and a few close calls. Provincial road, yes, delegated to the region, but I would like to talk to the city to see what your desires are with respect to dealing with that situation before I bring it to the region. With all due respect to you and the city, I'd like to work with you to get a solution and then bring that solution to the region as a delegated authority for parking along Main Street.
Perfect. Send me a note and I'll have my EA set that up between you and I and staff. Perfect. Thanks, Vance. Anything further? Seeing none. Okay, under the consent agenda, Councillor Bruno has lifted item 16.3C, and Councillor Bagu and Councillor Bruno have both lifted item 16.3E. Councillor Bagu has lifted item 16.3F, and Councillor Bruno has lifted items 16.3G and 16.3H. Are there any other items need to be lifted? Okay, if I could have Councillors Bruno and Bagu move, the council hereby approves the listed consent items on June 23rd, 2026 council agenda, that the consent items be approved on the recommendations as contained therein. All those in favor? Well, that's carried. So we're going on to our items requiring separate discussion, and we've moved items 17.6 and 17.9 to be dealt with first. So item 17.6, I'm going to pass over to Councillor Aquilina. It has to do with Westwood Estates. Councillor Beauregard and I have a conflict on this item, so I'll step down as position of the chair, and Councillor Aquilina will come here and take my place. Yeah, they're renumbered, Councillor, once they go into separate discussion. That's agenda item 17, so it becomes 17.6. Okay, thank you, Councillor.
Oh, good. So we'll just read the one. Yeah. So, oh, okay.
So you want to just get the seconder, put the motion on the floor, so move by second by, read out the full motion and then ask for questions.
Okay. Okay, so item 17.6, recommendation report for official plan amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, and draft plan of subdivision Westwood Estates Phase 3, files D09-01-23, D14-02-23, and D12-01-23, 2026-80. I'm going to have Councillor Hoyle move and Councillor Bodnar second. That Planning and Development Department Report 2026-80 be received, and that the official plan amendment attached hereto as Appendix A be approved. That the zoning bylaw amendment attached hereto as Appendix B be approved. That the draft plan of subdivision and associated draft plan conditions attached hereto as Appendix C be approved, and that the clerk be directed to issue the notices of decision regarding the applicable planning instruments in accordance with the Planning Act. Does council have any questions or comments? Councillor, yes?
I may have Miss Deputy Mayor. This is the original 16.3, right? We're wrapping off so many numbers. You got me confused here. I got my hair cut today, that's why. Anyways, Madam Deputy Mayor, thank you. I do have a few questions on the Westwood thing. First of all, I am in favor of it. It's excellent. I appreciate the work everybody's doing, working together, and not only with the neighboring properties, but Conservation Authority. I know they're not the easiest to get along with. They mean well. It's a tough fight. It's usually downhill for the developer, but I'm glad to see it's taken care of. The couple of questions I do have, Mrs. Deputy Mayor, is the stormwater drainage on this property, this whole development. Is the whole thing going to pipes, or is it going to the Eagle Marsh drain when development is complete, I guess?
Through acting mayor to councillor, there is a, yeah, you're correct, that to councillor, correct, that the Eagle Marsh drain does flow across the southern limit of this proposed development. So it does across the bottom of Westwood Phase 3. The proposal for the subdivision includes its own storm infrastructure that is piped under the road, and then there is a stormwater management feature located in the bottom corner of the property that'll control quality and quantity. Ultimately, if the pond could drain to Eagle Marsh Drain if it's required, but it may or may not be depending on major storm events. But engineering-wise, this has all been designed with the presence of Eagle Marsh Drain across the southern limit of the site, and then the branch drain that flows and bisects the property north-south up to around Lancaster Drive.
My next question, Mrs. Deputy Mayor, is the housing, the crescents, where it was clear-cutted earlier, a few years ago, whatever. They have a lot of water sitting in there now that does not drain. And can we be assured that that will be drained properly? Do we have to wait for the whole subdivision to get built, or is that going to be taken care of earlier?
Through acting mayor to the councillor, we believe through the engineering work that's been done and the vegetation enhancement that's going to occur in that block, so the block that is behind, I believe, Lena Crescent and Debbie, those sort of streets moving north, it's been identified for vegetation enhancement, so there will be vegetation put back in, plants that can take up water. It will also function in the stormwater and the lot, the sort of total subdivision grading. So there should be surface water improvements as a result of the development in that block.
Okay, thank you. You, Mr. Deputy Mayor, again. I know the neighbors are very appreciative of Mr. Schultz, and they're probably ecstatic, I think, that he would honor his father's promise, I guess, originally years ago, but actually he exceeded them. So thank you, Mr. Schultz, wherever you are. I can see you from here, though. But okay, a couple more questions. Sidewalks, I know it's under the site plan agreement. Are we planning to have sidewalks only on one side? Like, we don't need them on both sides of the subdivision, do we? Like, or does that go through official plan stuff?
Through the deputy mayor to the councillor, the subdivision agreement as it stands right now, the draft condition requires sidewalks on at least one side. So that's the minimum standard.
To you again, it seems to be working well through Westwood stage 1 and 2, just on one side. So I thank you for that. Also, I know Mr. Schultz likes planting his maple trees all over the place. Can we be assured that the development, they're native trees, a variety of native trees?
Through deputy mayor to the councillor, through the subdivision agreement, there's still or draft approval conditions. There will be the requirement for a landscape plan that is approved by staff at the city, and we'll be looking for a mix of tree types that'll be planted in the boulevards.
Thank you. It's just that if you plant the same tree and some disease hits the tree, your whole subdivision goes. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Last question, Mrs. Deputy Mayor. Access to Sunset Park. That's the neighborhood park, I imagine, for this subdivision. Is there actually access to the subdivision, or we have to cut to the mayor's house to get to the park?
Through Deputy. Through Deputy Mayor to the councillor. You will note that the draft plan and the concept plan include a walking trail along the western boundary of the branch drain that flows through the property. It would be our sort of longer term vision that we could create a connection of that walking trail through to Sunset Park. There's some discussions that would need to occur with the Conservation Authority with respect to getting approval to pass through the regulated features that are there. I don't think it's off the table, but it wasn't something that we wanted to tie up the approval of this development for in negotiations, as there had already been a lot of back and forth to get to where we are tonight with the Conservation Authority.
You, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you, and I'm done, and I will vote for it definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bodnar, and thanks for, Bodnar, beg you, I apologize. Thank you. I'm a little nervous up here. I'm so used to it. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Councillor Hoyle?
I just want to say that after having conversations with some residents on Lena, Kathy, and Debbie, I am, how do you say, very pleased to see this bumper zone that's there now compared to what was there originally. And some of them have contacted me and very appreciative. Just want to let that known. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hoyle. Anybody else? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. Everybody in favor? Anybody opposed? No. So carried. And I'm done? Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Aquilina. So next is item 17.9, recommendation report for official plan and zoning bylaw amendments for 547 King Street, files D09-01-26 and D14-01-26, 2026-96. If I could have Councillors Bruno and Bagu move that the Planning and Development Department report 2026-96 be received, and that the official plan amendment attached to this report as Appendix C be approved, and that the zoning bylaw amendment attached to this report as Appendix D be approved, and that the city clerk be directed to issue the notices of decision regarding the applicable planning instruments in accordance with the Planning Act. Questions? Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Item 17.1, Municipal Services Corporation Business Case and Community Engagement 2026-102. And before we put this on the floor, we'll have our CIO, Brian Bowles, gives a presentation on the MSC business case. Mr. Bowles.
Okay, thank you, Council. I know you have the business case, and some of you may have seen on Facebook or social media that there was some people already interested in the MSC, and I had a great chance to meet with a number of community members just a couple days ago to start talking about it kind of informally. But we'll go through a little bit about the MSC and the draft business case in front of you today, how we got here and where we're going. And we'll end with just really pointing out that there's a couple, and we're looking for approval of this report today. It is an approval of the business case. What you have in front of you today is approval to move forward with some public consultation to make sure we hear from the community and we know where we're going to go from there. So if we, I might be able to click. Perfect. So how did we get here? Everybody knows about the Asai-Kasei Wastewater Public Corporations Act, which means as council, you would still be in charge of setting the structure to which rates are set. That still stays within your control because this corporation would be 100% owned by the city, ultimate responsibility with council. And that's what we learned when we did the stuff, all the work with the Municipal Service Corporation with respect to Asai-Kasei. That's what we've learned as we've gone through the provincial and we've watched them come through their process. February came around and we all learned about the governance changes that potentially were going to happen in the Niagara region. And that opened up a whole new conversation about municipal service corporations, where municipalities across Niagara said that they'd be interested in moving down the municipal service corporation model. April came and we brought a report to council and we asked council, should we move forward with a business plan to start talking about this and a communications plan to talk further with the community? And we were told yes. And that brings us to today where we have this draft business plan in front of you. I think it's impossible to talk about water and wastewater and talk about how we got here unless we actually talk about water rates. When I met with some of the residents just last week, we had a great conversation about water rates. It really wasn't great in the sense that like anybody was happy with water rates. The reason why we're doing this is because water rates are extremely high and we need to look at how we're moving forward with respect to water rates. But one thing everybody gravitated to, and we put it in the business report or in the business case, was our director of public works, who we're working through this, found this document from the 1970s. And the document in the 1970s was a study on the water system. And it said, you know, in the 70s, we had 50% water loss, which means for every 2 liters of water we bought from the Niagara region, we lost a liter. And that has persisted since the late 70s to today. And I guess I would say, and our staff has been appreciative of council's support in recent years, where 2 councils ago, this council directed us to do the studies to make sure we went through the whole water system, to make sure we were able to identify where every line was, to make sure we were able to take the video cameras, go through every single pipe, and see where the leaks were. And then in this council, you gave us the approval to move forward with some of the construction to be able to start moving on this. So as we've done that, we've had to continue to educate, I think, maybe ourselves and the community about how the water system actually works. And when we talk about how it actually works, it's what's the responsibility of you as council and what's the responsibility of the Niagara region. The big thing to understand is that the Niagara region, they take care of the water and wastewater plants. They take care of the pumping stations that exist within the Niagara region. But all those linear pipes that connect from the water and wastewater to people's houses, that's all being taken care of by the city. And the city takes care of the billing as we move forward. Our role is to continue, and any municipal service corporation that might be set up is going to have to continue in this exact same fashion. Nothing will change with respect to the day-to-day operations of any of our employees. Nothing will change with respect to the day-to-day operations with respect to any of the quality levels or any of the tests that we have to do. The structure that we have where the region has their responsibilities and the city has our responsibilities stay completely the same, except we do some of them within that corporation. And as we're going through the process, and the business case points this out, one of the complexities we have with water is we don't control the whole system. 42% of our billing goes directly to the Niagara region. That means no matter what we do, you only, as a council, get to control about 60% of the costs. We know, based on the financial reports that are public, they're looking at 8 to 10% increases for the foreseeable future, no specific end date. And if 40% of your costs are being driven by that, and we go and look at wastewater, 61% of the costs go to the Niagara region, are going to be looking at an 8 to 10% increase. It's going to be very hard to ever bring the water rate or the wastewater rate down to a level that we want, because the majority, or half at least, of the costs are outside of your control. Council gave us direction back in April to look at seeing if maybe we could take over the water plants, bring that under control, because that bill is almost $10 million that we give to the Niagara region every year for the water and wastewater. The complexity is we don't have all the information. So the document in front of you is only about our system at this point in time, and then the storm. So the challenges that I talk about, that our Director of Public Works, that our whole team talk about with respect to the Port Colborne water and wastewater system are outlined in the report. When we have our open houses, we'll have some more information. Those that have come out to our water and wastewater open houses before have seen the computer systems that we set up, and we show where every single line is. We are able to drill down and show what different pipes look like. But it ultimately comes down to aging infrastructure. Much of the infrastructure has been replaced. Actually, when you read the report, almost all of our wastewater infrastructure at the end of this year is going to be in very good condition. Like, we are doing very well. But when you look at some of the other obstacles we have, such as rainwater entering this sewer system, that's complicated because only 1/3 of our city has a designed storm sewer system. That means for a lot of the city, the only place to remove water is sometimes to connect their sub pumps directly into the wastewater system. That means we're sending wastewater to the Niagara region to clean, even though it might already be clean. It might be rainwater. The flat geography requires a lot of pumping stations. Our wastewater treatment plant, I've talked about this a lot as we started this process, is at one of the higher points in Port Colborne. So we end up having to pump all the wastewater up to it. We have a high amount of lost water. So as I already mentioned, for every 2 liters of water we buy, we lose about 1 liter. That's going to require a lot of infrastructure to correct. We've identified the infrastructure in the business case that will be needed. About 1/3 of our system is still cast iron. So we heard about the regional break, or not the regional testing that happened. When they came back on, the pressure goes up, and whether it was that or something else, we had a break at that moment. But that's what happens with cast iron pipe. It breaks, and when it breaks, you end up, as ratepayers, end up paying for all that water directly from the Niagara region. Limited storm management, as I noted, as well as Lake Erie and Welland. One of the things that I think is very important to understand is when you walk along the Welland Canal and you see that wall and you feel safe because you're walking there, what's fascinating is there's actually water on both sides of that wall. And the water is going right into the downtown because of our low or high, I guess, groundwater table. And that's what keeps pressure on both sides and keeps the wall in place. So what ends up happening is you have much of the downtown area or places along the water area, they're always going to be submerged. So when you have these pumping stations, or you might have a leak in a wastewater pipe, you're sucking it in and you're sending it to the waste treatment plant. So again, our need is going to be to have to fix any leaks within the system to be able to stop sending water to the waste treatment plant or receiving water that maybe we can't sell because it's getting lost along the way with respect to breaks. So there are 2 options for fixing this. Really, it's the infrastructure improvements. We fix the current system. And to fix the current system, we're going to have to spend some money. As the business case points out, we can borrow money to do that, and we can borrow it within the city. The problem is we would use up all of our debt capacity. So if others in the city wanted to borrow money to do another project, whether it be a park, a road, even if we got into healthcare programs, we wouldn't have the capability. So setting up the Municipal Service Corporation, as we lay out in the business plan, provides an opportunity to take the debt and put it in a different company. So it doesn't impact the city's borrowing ability. The other way to do this is to potentially assume the region's water and wastewater infrastructure. We don't have enough information on that. You've given us the direction to continue working on that project, we will. But in the meantime, we're putting forward to get the Municipal Service Corporation underway with respect to our assets. And as I was talking a little bit about before, there has been improvements. The work that's being put into place right now for wastewater has seen in 2023 for every cubic meter, so for anybody watching, a cubic meter is like, and Steve, our Director of Public Works, will correct me, it's 1,000 liters. So you could almost think of this as for every liter that we actually sell to somebody, that somebody buys at a house, at a business. In 2023, we were sending 2.24 liters back to the waste treatment plant. We sent more water to the waste treatment plant to be cleaned than we actually even sold to somebody. And I think anybody that's thinking about that, they're like, well, if I buy it at my house, I like wash my car, I cook with it, I might drink some of it. So the fact is, it should probably be less than one in a perfect world, but it is above one. The work we've been started as of the end of 2025, that has improved by almost 40%. Doesn't sound like a lot, but the improvement is coming into play. These graphs, I'm not going to pretend to be the expert in explaining these. If you do come to the open house, our Public Works team will be there and they'll help walk you through many of these. But you can see where the spike happens. The first graph is what happens when you have a rain event. This is what was happening before. You had this massive spike. It would go up 5 or 6 quadrants higher. And you would then take 3 or 4 days to come back to normal water, wastewater and water levels. Now, after the improvements, you're only going up about 1 quadrant and you're coming back almost immediately. So the water that's getting into the system is way less with the work that's been going on. And that's because council, I think it's 3 years ago, probably at the beginning of this term, when you approved to do 1/3 of all of the wastewater lines that we're relining, this is the outcome of that work. You can see it in a different way. You have these huge spikes, and you can see how under the new model, once you get to the red, the spike is not nearly as high during a rain event, which means the water during these rain events, during these cease events, aren't getting into the system at the same degree. It's not to say there's not a lot of work to do, but there has been movement. So the proposal here, and what you have in front of you, is really about a municipal service corporation that's publicly owned. 100% it's owned by the city. The board would include council, community members, subject matter experts. There would be a shareholder declaration. There's many examples in the document that would be included in the shareholder declaration. Think of a shareholder declaration as the guardrails to ensure that the organization that we set up here works within the laws and regulations. It meets the standards. It meets the same water quality standards that we've all become accustomed to. The same people will be doing the same work that they've always done, and you'll, well, knock on wood, you're going to get the exact same result that we've always gotten, which is scores that are right at the top of the class every single time. The rationale for this really comes down to borrowing. Like, the real benefit is we can move the debt to do this work off of our books, and it doesn't impact us for anything else we want to do. This is particularly important for like the rural area, because if you're in the rural area where you don't have water and wastewater, if the city was to use all of its debt capacity to fix the water and wastewater system, as a rural member, if you needed something done, there would be no debt capacity left for you, but you don't even use the water and wastewater system. So in some respects, setting up a corporation like this ensures that everybody in the tax system on the tax levy maintains equity to future debt capacity and the financial flexibility. These corporations can provide good governance because you bring some subject matter experts onto the board to talk about water and wastewater in that area. As well as we can still continue to target grants. There's no limitation on the ability to go and do this. Innisville, for example, has had the opportunity to be able to set one of these corporations up and has been very successful with it for many years. Just a couple by the numbers, interest savings. In year one, based on the financing that we're able to bring together, we see savings of $800,000. If you average that over a 20-year period, it averages out to almost $500,000 a year. Going forward, almost $10 million by setting up the corporation versus doing it within the city's normal model. One of the opportunities we think exists, because when we go out and we talk as staff to residents, we've had the open houses, and I've heard from all of you as counselors tell us the fixed model of wastewater is complicated for low water users, and they're looking for a new model for that. Right now, we have the GIS. So if you're on government assistance, basically, you would have the opportunity to get a discount. I think it's just over $200. This amount that we think in the modeling that can be set aside is actually 5 times the amount that we currently set aside for that grant. So it would give council the opportunity to rethink how we do that fixed grant, and we could open it up not just to those that are on some sort of the GIS check, but we could also move it to people that actually use very little water. And that would be an opportunity to provide relief for many that are looking for that relief immediately. And then over time, as we fix the leaks, we address the system that was identified in the 1970s that should have been fixed, but didn't have any real start to the fix until just recently. Then we can look at how we can modernize or stabilize the rate going forward. And you'll read in the business plan, we put out some of our assumptions. We showed that the total project is going to come to about $20 million if you bring water, wastewater, and storm together. That will grow substantially in the coming years as we have Asai and other businesses that will be coming online in the coming years, as well as the community grows. It's hard to give you full projections going forward because right now, about half of the bill we don't control. And that we know is going up between 8 and 10% a year for the foreseeable future. So the MSC doesn't necessarily solve the rate today. What it does is it sets us up to have a more stable rate going forward. It allows us to borrow the funds that we need at a better rate, more flexible than what we could otherwise. So I'll just wrap it up. The org chart would look similar to this. We'd have the region, we'd have a city, and we'd have a holdco. I've been asked by people, why would you have a holdco in between? The holdco in between should not be used to scare anybody. All it's doing is it's creating a mechanism that we could have future municipal service corporations for other things. For example, and I said this to people, you may want to create something with, and our regional councilor has brought it up before, a community hub. We've talked about a health hub. Our mayor's brought it up, talked about a health hub. We could create a municipal service corporation to be able to solve some of our healthcare issues. So it would just provide the flexibility to be able to look at other options down the road, as well as housing. There is the opportunity to partner with the private sector to do affordable housing down the road. So this would just provide you as council the opportunity to be able to have more than one avenue to support the community going forward. Community engagement would be coming up on June 30th and July 6th. We'll have the full team out there, Public Works, myself, the finance team will be out there to have conversations with anybody that would like to discuss, as well as we're going to continue working on the Niagara Regional information. The mayor and I are looking to have a couple more meetings with region. I think one is early tomorrow to have some more dialogue to see if we can get some of the information that we need to do a full analysis on their system. So That's my presentation. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Brian. And just before I go to questions, just to remind council, and a number of you have been around this dais in the past, Port Colborne Hydro, Port Colborne Energy, Niagara Regional Broadband were all municipal service corps that the city had at the time. We sold our hydro to CNP. We got out of the Niagara Regional Broadband system first, and I think we received the most money for our shares compared to the other municipalities, which has gone back into the community. So this is nothing new to the city. We've done this before. Questions from council? Councillor Hoyle.
Just to go on what you're saying, Mayor, the little difference is with this one, the way it's set up, it'll be only private, and there's, I believe, no option for a sell. So in the future, however this works out, the water corps just mostly stay publicly owned in the city, where the other options had this mechanism where you can get out of it. This one's ours. We're going to run it. We're going to hold all the responsibility to it. I think a lot of people have to get out of their mind that we're going to a privatization, which is not even on the table here. Because that's what I hear from a lot of people. Other things, I'm glad he's said everything that was said today online. He's covered it. So all the people that were looking and making their statements online have watched this. If not, I'll be forwarding you the video. But I thank you for this presentation because you covered all the main questions that need to be answered.
Okay, Councillor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Brian. I guess one thing jumped off the page at me that I hadn't thought about. The interest savings slide. And it says interest savings to be invested in other city infrastructure programs and services, $800,000 a year, year one interest savings. And I guess the question popped into my head. If we have interest savings through water and wastewater, why would we spend those savings somewhere else other than back into the water system?
Yeah, through the mayor, maybe we didn't word that perfectly, so thank you for bringing that up. Any savings on water, wastewater has to stay in water, wastewater, and will go and be reinvested in water, wastewater. We have a very difficult balance that we have to find because our rates are high. The complexity, and we've all seen the budget slides, that we've talked about our inflation that we live with every day, right? We see it, we call it headline inflation. We think it's 2 or 3% we often hear about, but if you go to the grocery store, it feels like a lot more on items. Well, in the construction industry, it's a lot more as well. And that's the real complexity that we're facing with in our system today, is construction CPI might be 5% a year. So if you don't do a project today, and it costs you $100 today, you want to do it 2 years from now, it's not 105, it's like 110. Then you have to pay the interest on the 110 in 2 years. So one of the complexities we have is any savings we have, the best return we're going to get on the system is fixing it now. Because the cost to replace the system is going up faster than interest rates. It's going up faster than anything else that we can do. So thank you for bringing that up and for letting me clarify that. Any savings are going back, it was meant to be any savings go back into water, wastewater, or just finding a more stable rate. Like rates can't continue going up at 10% per year, which is why this is only phase one. Phase one is about setting up the corporation and doing what we can control in the most cost-effective way. The other 50%, we need to learn more about how to bring that cost down. Because for that to keep going up 10% per year is going to be very complicated, I think, for all of us. Residents I met with a couple of days ago, they did the math. And they were like, well, if I'm paying $100 and something a month now for wastewater, 10 years out at 10% increases, I'm paying like $300 or more for wastewater. And that's not going to work. And that's why we have to rethink how we do this. And for many, I think we have to think about, and I put forward to council, How we finance this is a really important question. We've had this conversation at council many times. Many of these assets that we fix have 50 to 100-year lives. But for the most part, municipalities pay cash up front for every item, which means somebody that's living in the city today, they have to pay for 100% of it, but they might not live 100 years to see that return. So maybe by borrowing it over a longer period of time, we could find a more reasonable rate increase over a period of time than what we've had to endure and going forward. So this corporation is a mechanism to help us change the way we can start talking about financing.
Councillor?
Just one other question that popped in my head when you were showing the structure. The board of directors, what will they be responsible for as far as the corporation itself? Do they put themselves into day-to-day activities? Who actually runs the day-to-day business of our water system? And how much control outside of the board does council have over the operation overall?
Right. Thank you, Mayor, and to the councillor and council. So I think it's on page 16, 17 of the document. We start outlaying many of those items. So we put forward that the goal is to change the way we operate really today in any meaningful way. So what's put forward is your senior management team of the city would be serviced agreement, senior management team of the Municipal Service Corporation. So I will still be there. We will still rely on our clerk, on our finance team, on our HR team, our IT team, Public Works. Some employees would move over to it because they would be directly linked, but many of the shared services, we'd have a shared service agreement with respect to it. Council's approval, many of the safeguards, it's called a shareholder declaration, where the reporting has to come back to council. So for not just on big decisions, i.e., let's say the corporation someday wanted to build its own water treatment plant. It could not do that. It would have to come back to council to make these big decisions. With respect to compliance and testing and all of that, that's all going to be public, so people would still be able to see all that. All the rules and regulations still have to be done. With respect to rates, council could lay out a framework and say rates will have to be set within this framework, and then we'd continue to move forward on that. As I've noted, the biggest aspect of the framework, most of the rate is a fallout from the capital projects. Most of the costs going forward, the escalation is fixing the system right now. It's capital, so it's almost like predetermined. And then it's about what's the regional rates going to be. So that's what's driving those two areas is what's driving your rate structure. And it's almost a math equation, which we need to bring back into a hard equation because the cost is getting out of hand, which is why we have to try to do this differently and we have to get the capital done today. So we've tried to outline many of these here, and we look forward to, during the public consultations, people saying maybe there's some other restrictions we should put on. Maybe council should have some additional oversight. So all of that can be worked through, and we can talk through with the lawyers that are looking at this with us to be able to set up. There's other examples. We are not the first municipality to do this, and others are looking to do it too for the same reason. They want access to the different borrowing opportunities to be able to do it and to be able to bring some subject matter experts, some community members that can become part of the water wastewater program to solve.
Councillor Baggett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few questions. I'm going to start right from the beginning. The region charges us for sewage treatment. We do 1.7 and more. But the actual cost incurred by the region to treat twice as much water, my understanding in our conversations, is very minimal. It's pennies. But they're charging us an excessive fee, even though it costs them pennies to treat the little bit of, or not the little bit, the excess water. Is that right?
So through the mayor to the councillor and council, I'm going to watch my words carefully. I work with the region regularly. So the reality is, and you can see in their budget presentations, they'll say about 8%, somewhere around 8%, I believe it is variable. So 100% correct. So that means if you send more water to them, in theory, the cost should go up by 8%. Not like 8% in total, but if you think about 100% of their costs, only 8% of that 100% is variable. 92% is fixed, which means, as you said, if you're sending more water to or wastewater to a plant, the cost shouldn't go up a lot. The complexity is there's a model in the Niagara region, and it bills everybody based on volume. So they take their total budget and they allocate it to everybody based on the volume you send to the plant. They have a meter, they measure it. So if it's exuberant or they're billing us incorrectly or too high, it's not that they're billing us incorrectly. They're billing us based on a regional council approved billing model. I just want everybody to know that. They take the total budget and they allocate it to everybody based on the volume you send. The problem, and what I think our staff would put forward is, well, it might seem reasonable to think that volume is the cost driver. They will tell us that volume doesn't really impact the cost of running the plant. So I appreciate you for bringing up that point. Like, you're 100% right. I just don't know if I want to jump on the fact that they're exuberant or not, because they're billing correctly based on the regional council's approved billing model. But as I've said to everybody, and I've said to you, Councillor, on a couple occasions, like, if the costs aren't driven by volume, maybe there should be a different cost driver.
So just, Councillor, before you ask your next question, that has been a bone of contention for a number of us at the region, because that agreement goes back to 2014, 2018 council, somewhere in there, Brian?
I think that was around, it was certainly reviewed at that time. It would have, the model
was developed prior to that.
Pre-2010.
Yeah, so pre-2010, so that's how far it goes back. But it was looked at 2014 to 2018. When a number of us got on in 2018, we said it wasn't fair. We never thought it was fair. And Brian is totally right. So, but that's something that, unfortunately, the number of us were outnumbered in the votes to make changes. But I think with the new governance structure moving forward after this next election, we'll be able to make changes at that. But I think the changes that staff here are bringing forward are the way to go. Next question, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I don't know if you worked for the region at that time or not, but we won't talk about that. You didn't explain the borrowing capacity that much. Like, you didn't explain how our municipality can only borrow so much money according to Ontario legislation. And the region, actually, we need their permission also. And then that's why we have to form a different corporation to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. That conversation is one that can go on for a very long time. So I think what's important for anybody that's considering this to understand is, as a city, we can't issue debt independently. We have to go to the Niagara region, and we have to issue the debt through the Niagara region. The complexity with that scenario is, as we've laid out, we need to borrow about $80 million based on all of the projects we have undergo right now. And then if we really want to get to the next level to finally fix the system, there's still going to be another $100 million to borrow after that. The problem with that is, if we were to go to the Niagara region and say we need to put $100 million issued under your debt capacity, and then other cities started doing that, because other cities have different infrastructure needs. Maybe it's not water, maybe it's roads, maybe it's a playground, maybe it's fire, whatever that may be. The region will not have the debt capacity to maintain the credit rating that they're looking for. So this is a mechanism that we don't put any burden on the region or on any other municipality in Niagara, because we set up this separate corporation and we can do it, and they can go and they can maintain their credit, their debt capacity and all of that. So we're, by doing the municipal service corporation, we're actually helping everybody else. So they have the borrowing capacity. If they go through traditional borrowing models to be able to do it, we help ourselves because we can go through traditional borrowing methods on the city's books, and we have access to the debt here. What we point out in the municipal, in the MSC document here, is even if we borrowed up to the total amount for the infrastructure that we would need to fix the system, we believe, you'd only be at 20% borrowing of the total assets of the value of the system. So to replace the whole system, it's about $1.2 billion in assets right now. So even if you borrowed, you'd only be at less than 20% of borrowing on the total assets. I looked it up on, the computer. We have these AI in that, and it said most people, that the average, household has 50% plus of a mortgage, that might own a house or something like that. So for a lot of people, just to put it in that sense, if you own 50% on your house, we'd be borrowing on the whole water system, and we'd only have borrowed on 20% of the water system. So it's not a huge amount of leverage when you actually think about it, to be able to fix a system that's been broken since that report that Public Works found from the 1970s.
1979 to be
79.
exact. Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one more question. Actually, this comment, I see Niagara Lake just woke up. The news yesterday, they realized they got to start fixing their infrastructure underground. And it's going to cost, their water bills are going to skyrocket in Niagara Lake. Last question, I guess, is Ontario government. They're aware of what we're doing. And I'm not going to answer we have their blessing, but they're okay with it. Am I correct?
Yeah, through the mayor to the councillor. It's a good question. So as we move forward with the Municipal Service Corporation, because it's established and it's our infrastructure moving in, there's a pathway naturally to do that. If we wanted to finalize a business case to say, well, maybe we should be a standalone organization, or we should partner with other municipalities and not be part of the traditional regional system, that would definitely need provincial uptake, as well as regional uptake, and potentially other cities within the Niagara region to be able to do that. But we can move forward with the Municipal Service Corporation based on the advice that we've received from our lawyers.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bruno?
Thank you, Worship. I was pleased when Councillor Elliott brought up the role of the board. And we haven't spent a lot of attention on that. I think it was important that you clarified that the board isn't going to be telling Cassandra, don't monitor this, or shave some money by not doing that, or Steve, don't do this. That's not their role. But I think that at least some of the boards I've been on, and maybe members of council has, we're the board of directors of the city of Port Colborne, but we don't have a lot of subject expertise in various areas. And I look at a board like this who, when it could be composed of a retired financier, banker, or accountant, it could have someone who's been on this type of board that did water and wastewater. It could be somebody who's retired who is a hydrological engineer or an engineer specializing who's just left the private sector. And that knowledge bank that's not paid for at the going rate of when they were in their professional career, that network, that advisory capacity to our staff, but more importantly, to seek funding. You're done a wonderful job and staff focused on this, but you all have other responsibilities. Imagine people that are in this world who can be laser focused and enjoy doing something like this and adding their network and expertise, what the possibilities are of what they could bring back to us in those board meetings, or the kind of studies that they could take on, or this is the company that's best suited for that, or how to get best value and added value. I think there's a real intrinsic value in the Municipal Service Corporation to get some of that outside subject expert and expertise that can help all of us. And it would probably be an enjoyable journey for them with working together. I think we all could learn a lot from them. So I just wanted to add that. I don't know if you have any comment on it.
Through the mayor to the councillor and council, that is often cited as one of the biggest benefits. If it's not the financial flexibility that it changes, but it's the fact that you're changing the way that you operate. If you look at the number of items that council would have reported on, in talking to other residents that have talked to me about this, I point out that there would actually be more disclosure and more robust conversation than what we even do now. Not to say that there's not a lot that goes at the staff level, but the amount that's going to come to the board and get comment at the board level and then also be communicated to council increases in this model. It doesn't decrease. And that's, I think, a huge benefit, because if the transparency had been there 20, 30 years ago, we might not have a system that needs this much work today.
Further questions? Councillor Bodnar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Both Councillor Elliott and Councillor Bruno have touched on this, but I guess I just want to hear it from you, Mr. CAO, that we're very well aware as councillors that we are personally responsible if we do something wrong that causes the water to affect people. So this board will not have the ability to, and Councilor Bruno said it, direct someone to cheap out on doing something, or don't test as much as you usually do. And I think that's important to me as someone right now who could be held responsible. So can you guarantee us that council will still set, along with staff, the priorities of testing? And I'm fully aware that we're also under, the microscope from other government agencies doing this correctly. But because I've heard from some people that they think it's going to be somehow a diminished board that will not really care too much about the quality of the water that's coming through.
Yeah. Through the mayor to the councillor and council, I think that's a really important point, that even by setting up this corporation, council still is going to be ultimately responsible. Like it's the point to show that there's no such thing as privatization in this model that we're talking about. You can't move your responsibility over, and that's why the shareholder declaration is so important. We have received some feedback so far on it. There's areas such as key risk mitigation strategies. In this declaration, we've tried to keep that general. But we are having a conversation to bring back the final one. Remember, this is drafts, the final one that would come back in July. That might indicate with a little more teeth or a little more direction with respect to that, because there is no model where anybody in this corporation is going to be able to direct somebody to reduce the quality of the water. And if for no other reason, the professional standards that as staff we all have to live to for our designations, it's just not going to happen. But we can definitely adjust the shareholder declaration to add a couple more points based on some feedback we've already received to make it clear, to make people feel comfortable. It was always intended in here that that was the case. For some people, they need a little more teeth to believe. And that's something that I think you'll see a little bit added. The final shareholder declaration document will come back to you in July. Will be a separate document than this. But it will have these points and more that will help create those guardrails to make sure that this corporation always operates effectively. And the key point to the whole model is this council appoints the board. So if there is an issue, this council can also take action on the board.
Set. Further questions? Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bodner and I are in Ward 4, the rural area, so we aren't impacted as much from constituents who reach out to other councillors, but we're fully aware of I'm trying to think of the word, but how important the water bills are and the fees that residents are paying, because it doesn't matter what gets posted on Facebook, it always leads back to a comment about water and wastewater and what they're paying, regardless of the topic. But what I really want to stress is these open houses that we're having. When CAO Boyles was appointed as CAO, he took council's direction of having more engagement with the residents and has directed staff to do numerous open houses. And it's very disappointing when council attends those open houses that there's very little participation by residents. And the purpose of the open houses are for the residents to ask their questions, to voice their concerns, to provide their feedback so that it can go back for staff to reflect on. So I just want to encourage everybody to, if you can't get to an open house, contact City Hall and ask your questions and get clarification, as opposed to creating your own dialogue of what you think is happening, because the intent is for you to have voices and to be a part of correcting and participating in setting the new standards. So anyways, I just wanted to voice that.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions? Thank you, Mr. Bowles. So if I could have Councillors Hoyle and Bruno move that Chief Administrative Officer Report 2026-102 be received, that the Manager of Corporate Communications be directed to begin communications and engagement using the draft business case attached to as Appendix A to raise awareness and support resident understanding of a city-owned municipal service corporation, better known as an MSC, including its purpose, potential benefits, and the implications for local service delivery. Further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Item 17.2 is Licensed Childcare Operational Agreement, YMCA 2026-89. Mr. Greg Jouep, our Manager of Recreation and Tourism, will come forward and give us an overview of the report. Welcome, Greg.
Good evening. Do we have any questions?
Okay. So how about you want to take questions from council? Is that?
I don't have a presentation prepared. I don't know if there was an expectation.
No, that's fine. Let me do this then. So how about I put it on the floor, then it's easier. We can go questions and comments from council. So if I could have Councillors Bodner and Elliott move that the Recreation and Tourism Department Report 2026-89 be received, that the license agreement with YMCA of Niagara for the operation of the child care facility at 76 Main Street West, attached here to as Appendix A, be approved. Questions from council or comments from council? Well, you know what that says, Greg? They read your report and it gives them all their answers, which is a good thing. Okay, seeing
Thanks,
none?
council.
Yeah. Seeing none, all in favor? Well, that's carried. We've had lots of questions on that one over the past. Item 17.3 is the Niagara Transit Expansion and Service Updates 2026-87. The CAO is going to give us an overview on this report.
Okay. So we don't have a special presentation for this one either. I'll sit down for this. So this report really comes to you because there's a number of things going on in transit. We've had consultation with the community through the health programs and the health public consultation we've had. And one of the number one things we heard about was transportation. Then we had the bridge. The boat hit the bridge, the ship hit the bridge, and we had a lot of conversations about transportation. And then we can circle back even further to that, where we had the bridge closures in the winter and we had comments about transportation. And I think we get the point. There's been a lot of comments about transportation in the city of Port Colborne. In fact, we've had the conversation about the fact that on the on-demand system, ridership for Port Colborne residents has actually declined, and we've heard I've heard from all of you as councillors that there's been some concerns. So we reached out to the Niagara Transit, and the Niagara Transit has a mechanism to review transit within a city. And we've seen, I think Fort Erie's been working on something since the start of the whole amalgamation to change how their bus system works. And we've had this conversation with Niagara Transit, and they put forward that we could have a conversation about how our system works. But before we do that, we need to get support from council and direction from council to start that dialogue so they can move forward and have their own dialogue to see how this process would work. So from a staff perspective, we'd appreciate your support because that gives us the ability to go and work with Niagara Transit, and Niagara Transit would start a process. We have a member from Niagara Transit in the back in case there's a question and you might have some questions about the process. He's a very nice individual, even though we may have some concerns about transit in the city. For everybody to know, this individual is a very nice individual that we've enjoyed working with to try to figure out how we could make some improvements. So if you do have some questions, I think he would be happy to come up and ask. But that's the long and the short of this report. It's about how do we start a beachhead to start moving forward on a new direction on transit in the city.
Great, thanks, Brian. So with that, to get comments and questions, I can ask Councillors Aquilina and Elliott to move the Planning and Development Department Report 2026-87 be received. The council approve the motion attached here to as Appendix B. The council recognize transportation as a key social determinant of health and support the advancement of transportation initiatives that improve access to healthcare services as a priority action under the Community Health and Wellness Action Plan, including transit connections to major healthcare institutions within Niagara Region, and that city staff be directed to continue exploring additional transportation partnerships and service models in addition to Niagara Transit On Demand that may reduce barriers to healthcare access for Port Colborne residents, and report back to council as opportunities are identified. That the city staff be directed to explore options for transit service and community connections during the expected Welland Canal Bridge closures by the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation during the winter 2026-2027 season, and report back to council, including with Niagara Transit, that the city clerk be directed to forward the approved motion attached here to as Appendix B, as well as Planning and Development Department Report 2026-87 to the Niagara Transit Commission in the City of Welland. Questions? Councillor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Bodner and I are both part of the Health Advisory Committee as well as yourself. And I think the shocking information came like just our last meeting where the early on people of Port Cares were here to do a presentation, and they were stating that when the bridge, the Clarence Street Bridge was closed, they saw a decline of, was it 24% in the food bank and in accessing the early on services that they provide, which to me indicates there's a desperate need to have something on the east side for residents because they can't get across to access services that they need. And if we don't have anything on with healthcare in the near future on the east side, they're still coming like to this side to service pharmacies, the urgent care and everything like that. So that would be one of the big topics I think needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. One of the things that, and I don't know if the gentleman at the back can answer this, but, you know, around this table, we know when budget deadlines are, we know if we want to get a request in, when it's got to be in. We're following the trimester reports. And I don't know, and maybe it's just the confidence that staff has in that and we can rely on, but when we want to make these changes or we want to pivot, here we pivot on a dime sometimes, but it's within the context of a dollar amount. Like, we understand the organization, we understand how to get things through. And I don't know when we propose these changes, like what kind of lead times we need, A. B, obviously we're in less control of the budget being improved. I mean, is there a primer that you could give us, and or maybe staff weighs in, because I really don't know if we want to change in transit, how early we've got to react, and is it just the Transit Commission doing the costing? Do we have any say in that? Really, maybe just a baseline for that, if you could.
Welcome. And good seeing you again.
Am I on here? Everyone can hear me? Perfect. Through the mayor, thank you very much for the question, Councillor. So I'll address a few things. If I miss anything that you asked, just let me know. But so in terms of timelines, it really depends on what the ask is. Some things, depending on what resources are available in any given year, there, you know, are things that can move quickly, but largely in transit, it does take a while. If I order a bus today from either of the two Canadian suppliers that are left, it takes 2 years to take delivery on that bus. So obviously that's just one example, but the timelines in transit can take a while, and the system almost sort of functions like an organism. It, you know, they all connect to each other, so a change in one road over here, you have to figure out how that's going to affect the whole system. In terms of budgeting and control over service, so when transit was amalgamated, all the local municipalities did give up planning and budget authority over transit. What we've tried to do with this is that, having seen many of the local municipalities passing motions of, you know, varying types about different types of changes and improvements to the transit service, and I worked with many of them on it, I sort of recognized that there was inconsistency across the board. And so we've put this in to try and give a framework for the voice from local councils. So with this motion, that will go to our board, and we will develop options or look at solutions to the problems that you're talking about with the service. We will come back and make a presentation, and at that time, if it's council's wish, can pass a motion endorsing those options that we would put forward, and then we would look to include them in the budget process. So it's an ask that the local council is making. It's not necessarily binding, but when there are parts of the service that ultimately you pay for, that carries a lot of weight in the budget process. If, you know, like the east-west connection that's spoken about, that would be a pure pass-through to Port Colborne. So it makes it easy for, say, someone from another, counselor from another municipality to say yes, because they recognize that the council here wants it and that they're not the ones paying for it. Now, I will point out that the service along the 140 that's requested for those signature sites, that would be a regional route, which is paid for through, it's paid for or decided on at regional council. So that's a little bit of a different calculus, but we'll work something up and make a presentation and put kind of what that will look like in front of you. It'll include costs and timelines and things like that, so that you can make kind of an informed decision. And then we would include that in the budget process. And depending on what year, because sometimes it's, if it's not something that we can get going until 2028, then obviously we would save it for that budget process. But did I answer kind of the stuff?
Excellent. Learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hoyle?
Did you happen to hear my comments to Regional Councilor Badaway?
I missed that. I apologize.
I did ask for a transit stop, a bus stop on the east side, and Councilor Aquilina touched base on it. I think when they made this route as it is now, they forgot that the city is divided in half. So a bus would help move people better besides on demand, because we do have residents that don't use phones and cell phones. So, and that's the blockage that I hear when I go door to door. So we were looking for a bus stop somewhere, and I know the mayor has already presented it a few times. Vance has, and I believe Eric has too on the committee meetings. So
yeah, so through the mayor, certainly the canal poses a unique challenge. Obviously, scheduling is one of the most important parts of transit, and transit being on time is very important. So that's something that we'll look at, and we're going to look at potentially some other jurisdictions that have a similar problem and what solutions they've implemented. My assumption is that there is no magic kind of an option, but we'll certainly look at whatever is available and we think could work. If you look in the master plan, it's more about coverage than the exact routes, but community bus is contemplated in Port Colborne through the master plan. And so that's the type of thing that would solve that problem, or at least contribute to it. So, it does take time, but that's the kind of thing we'll look at and present on when we come back, if council passes the motion.
Councilor Bodnar?
No, I think everyone has touched on the main points, and I think it's just important to get this underway between staff here and staff at the region and see what we can work out.
Okay, Councilor Baggett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to make a comment. The 1.2 million or 1.4 million you give to Niagara Transit every year, yet you service only half our community. So if you're going to give us a bus on the east side, you're going to charge us double now? $2.8 million a year? That's the point I'm trying to get to you is we're giving you all this money, you're only servicing half a city. And bring that back to your whoever, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So through the mayor, we'll say that the microtransit does service all of Port Colborne. That is, the regional route only comes to this side. But in terms of microtransit, you can book a ride anywhere in Port Colborne to anywhere in Port Colborne. So I just want to make that clear distinction. We do not cut off that side of the city. We have talked at transit that there's maybe a communication issue to make sure that those residents on the east side are aware that the service is available. We also know that, how this all started was through pilot projects that were done during COVID. And you can imagine what the ridership level was like during COVID, and then all of a sudden they were all uploaded, and COVID's over, and now there's been capacity issues from day one. So then that's in every municipality, that's not a Port Colborne problem, and that's part of the issue with microtransit in general. Because it is a curb-to-curb ride for $3.50, whatever capacity you put on the road will get eaten up, guaranteed. And there's no real limit to that. Microtransit was originally designed in most places to be a first mile, last mile system from conventional bus transit. And so that's something that we're working towards through the master plan, and that will improve the service not only in each community, but just overall and how it's all interconnected. But it just takes time to get to, and I always say everything in transit happens at the speed of budget, so we're working on it. But it will take time. But to be absolutely clear, everywhere in Port Colborne is serviced by microtransit.
CAO has something to add?
So I'll just jump in just so council's aware. So when we talk about the Niagara Regional Transit is a commission. So just for us all to be aware, they're a little different than the Niagara Region. The Niagara Region might fund some components, but they are a separate commission, a separate board, and our councillor Beauregard sits on that board right now. But and just for our presenter, the answer was great, but to prevent council from jumping in and asking more questions on that or stating the complexity that we have in Port Colborne is the bill's now over $1 million. We used to have a community bus that did this whole route, that navigated the canals and went up and down to Welland, and our total taxpayer hit between the regional hit and the city hit was only $500,000. So I think what the councillor was just getting at, it's just, we get that we were told microtransit would be the solution. We were also told it would be a 6-minute pickup, which it's not. So it's just, there was a lot of storytelling to get to this spot. And now we have to have an honest conversation to reset where are we going from here, because for this council who saw the transition, they were paying $500,000 and nobody was complaining. Now we're paying $1 million and they get complaints. So that's the complexity, and that's the gist of the motion. And so the question's not in disrespect. The question is just in, you're trying to balance, how did we go from here to here? And I have more complaints than I ever did, but I'm paying twice as much. And I realize that all municipalities voted on the funding model and all of this, but for certain municipalities, and maybe this council feels that, it might not have turned out the way that they thought it was going to turn out. That's all. So I thank you for being a good sport for hearing our questions today and for working with us on this.
No problem at all. Happy to, and through the mayor. A lot of things were, nobody who currently works at transit was a part of the, what I'll call roadshow of what was presented at that time. And some things might have been done differently, but we are where we are. And so, I think we have a good path forward, but I can certainly understand, and I don't recall what year that was, but I know that even something like the price of a bus has gone up drastically. What a bus would have cost then, one 40-foot diesel city bus now costs about $1.2 million a piece. So $500,000, at one time likely wouldn't be a realistic cost to run the same service even today. But there's still a good path forward, and I think we have a good process now, so we're very excited to move forward with it. I will throw some kudos to your staff. When I was speaking with Carla, our general manager, she said that moving forward in this process, if any municipality asks how they should put it together, we will send them the report and motions from Port Colborne, because they did a very good job. So I just wanted to throw that in. They did a really good job on the report. So
good. I appreciate that. Just to give you a little history lesson, Councillor Bodner served on the first transit committee back in around 2002, 2003. When he became mayor, I became the transit representative. That's how long ago this started. A path that took way too long. And with my next point, with the changes of governance at the region going down to 12 mayors, I don't believe those things will happen like that again. It'll move a lot faster. And as we've talked about tonight with our MSC, I think you can have a better system, not just in transit, but a lot of issues with what the region looks after, where we as a municipality can go to the regional governance model and the commission and say, look, Port Colborne wants to pay for this service and get it done a lot faster. We believe this will move things way quicker. We understand that it takes a long time to get a bus, like to buy a bus, which seems ridiculous to me, but anyways, that's the way it is. It's like fire trucks with the chief, same issue. But I do see, I believe it is better. It's had its hiccups, but we were the largest uptake in ridership in the on-demand system when it started. Now things changed there. They changed programmers and things like that, but you were able to go to all four corners of this municipality before, where Ward 4 at that time never had anything. And that system that Port Colborne had, we just kept shrinking into a very tiny system. So although it's had its warts, it is still better than what we had originally, but we do pay for it. But I think moving forward, council, with things that are going on, that we could hold a little bit more power as far as how we want to budget here to get it to them faster, to make a better system in Port Colborne. And I think all municipalities are talking that way. So appreciate it. Further questions? Great. Appreciate you coming out tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So if I could have Councilors Aquilina and Elliott move that Planning and Development, Department Report 2026-87 be received. Council approve the motion attached here to as Appendix B, and that Council recognize transportation as a key social determinant of health and support the advancement of transportation initiatives that improve access to healthcare services as a priority action under the Community Health and Wellness Action Plan, including transit connections to major healthcare institutions within Niagara Region. And city staff be directed to continue exploring additional transportation partnerships and service models in addition to Niagara Transit on Demand, and may reduce barriers to healthcare access for Port Colborne residents, and report back to council as opportunities are identified. And city staff be directed to explore options for transit service and community connections during the expected Welland Canal Bridge closures by St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation during the winter 2026-2027 season, and report back to council, including with Niagara Transit, and that the city clerk be directed to forward the approved motion attached hereto as Appendix B, as well as Planning and Development Department Report 2026-87 to the Niagara Transit Commission and the City of Welland. And that was already moved by Councilors Aquilina and Elliott. Further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Good job, Council. Item 17.4 is the interim control bylaw, Planning and Development Department Report 2026-109. So before we consider this report, we're going to take a 15-minute recess so everyone has a chance to review the report and bylaw, because this is coming to us tonight. And we do have them available for anyone in the crowd. Yep. And our clerk's department will have these available for anyone in the audience tonight. There we are, he's handing them out. Thank you. So council, at this time we'll take a 15-minute recess. We'll be back here at 5 after 9. So please read this over and formulate any questions or comments that you may have. Our next item is the interim control bylaw. If I could have Councilors Bruno and Bodnar move that Planning and Development Department Report 2026-109 be received. The council approve an interim control bylaw attached to this report as Appendix A. The council directs staff to initiate a land use study for the lands shown in Schedule A that will access the role and function of the study area, including its transition from an institutional healthcare use to a potential residential and mixed-use development, and its relationship to surrounding land uses, including neighborhood context and the surrounding urban structure. 2, examining appropriate land use permissions, built form, and intensity, including opportunities for residential mixed-use community or other uses, constraints or requirements for servicing, access, environmental conditions, or compatibility, and connectivity to the broader trail and park network. 3, identify a preferred land use framework and supporting policy direction for the study area, including potential amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaws as appropriate, in establishing a clear planning framework, including required studies to guide future development. 4, examine the planning structure, land use mix, and intensity for the lands identified on Schedule A of Appendix A. And 5, update the official plan and zoning bylaw regulations as needed for the lands identified in Schedule A of Appendix A. The council delegate authority to the Chief Administrative Officer in conjunction with the Chief Financial Officer, the ability to single source or sole source work for this initiative, allowing staff to begin this study expeditiously. The council deemed that Section 38 of the Planning Act has been met, and the council instruct the city clerk to prepare the necessary notice adopting the interim control bylaw as contained in Appendix A of Report 2026-109. Questions, or Eric, did you want to give an overview and then we'll take questions?
Through the mayor, yeah, thank you. And I'll start by apologizing to council for the format that this is a walk-on report. We were trying to follow the example of how an interim control bylaw is presented to council, which in the case of this property, you know, I'm not sure whether the element of sort of walking it on the night of is necessary or not, but that tends to be the process for an interim control bylaw, so that's the way we went. What is in front of you now is a recommendation report for us to put in place an interim control bylaw to pause redevelopment of the Port Colborne General Hospital site for 1 year. There will be an option at the end of that year to extend the pause on development for an additional year, but tonight we're talking about a 1 year pause on development. And that's going to allow us to initiate a land use study which looks at the future role and function of the property. And at this point, there's a lot of unknowns with respect to Niagara Health, their plans for the site, future plans for the site. And the current official plan, as it's in development right now, will be back in front of council in November, but we're in a period where the current plan that we have, that current official plan, doesn't speak to the redevelopment of this site and opportunities and what development could occur on this site in the future should it cease to be used in a hospital format. So we'd like to take some time, pause redevelopment of the site, look at the options for the site, look at the servicing that's available for the site, look at all the uses that could occur, how we balance those with the existing neighborhood, the existing surrounding land uses, H.H. Knoll Park, and other opportunities we have at the waterfront. Package that all up and bring it back to council for your consideration. What we don't want to do with this is impact the current operations of the urgent care center. So there is some language in the report that talks about, well, typically an interim control bylaw is a pause on all development, including any building permits. We're not looking at anything that would restrict the continued operation of the urgent care center. So if a building permit's needed for an interior alteration, if something is needed to maintain the building, we're suggesting that that would still be approved to continue the use of the property for Niagara Health in the urgent care format. We're just saying that should the property become surplus to Niagara Health needs, should it cease to be identified as ceasing to be used for hospital purpose, we'd like to have some input on what the future of the site could be. So that's my intro. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Questions from anyone?
Just comment.
Yeah, oh yeah, or comment. Yeah, it's on the floor, so questions or comments.
I want to thank you for bringing the education beforehand some weeks ago on this. But the more I think about that site, we're now launching into, like, I can't think of a better time to use this in the city of Port Colborne. I mean, one, it can't help but help the neighbors be a part of what's there. It can't help but help a waterfront plan to have this incorporated. It can't but help, in my view, the Niagara Health System as they go to sell it, to be able to advertise to a potential buyer what can go there. It removes all that doubt and all those conditions that may be in a buy. And I think the fact that it comes at a time when you have a glide path into the end of this council's term and another term coming, which could have various people on it, that this is something that can stay stable while either new people get orientated or we move this forward. So, like, on every front, I see this as a benefit, the shortness of the term. I'm glad you introduced it to us, and I think it's going to ultimately serve what goes there the best. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Baggio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my question goes to the clerk. Madam Clerk, how are the people in the municipality going to be able to read this document at all?
Madam Clerk.
It will be made available and attached to the minutes of this meeting. And the recommendation will have up on the screen, which will be in the video recording of this meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further questions? Councillor Bonner.
I think I know the answer to this, but so timing-wise, is this the right, like, after a year, this gets a little harder to get in for the next year, right? Like right now, we can do it. But at the next year, if we need to extend that, there might be a few challenges. Are we good with the timing of, like, starting this now? There was no thought of waiting for months or whatever. Just my thought.
Through the mayor to Councillor Bodnar. We believe that we can undertake and complete this study within the 1 year time frame. I will say that senior health advisor, a little bit untraditional for an interim control bylaw, did have a discussion with Niagara Health about this and about this process. And at the moment, they're supportive of this. They see it as an opportunity to, I think, help them determine a future for the property, and it can be something that they can utilize in their decision-making related to the future of the site. So as it comes to the extension of this, if it were to be applicable, within the sort of the process that's laid out in the Planning Act, really it would be Niagara Health, the property owner, that would be the appellant should they wish to appeal the extension into a second year. And based on the discussions that I understand that the senior health advisor had with them, that currently that wouldn't be something that they would be pursuing. And then again, at the same time, I do wish to reiterate that I believe we can complete this study within the year, and that I think we can realistically get started on the background work for that this summer.
I apologize. Thanks, Eric. Good job on this. So with no further questions or comments, all those in favor? And that's carried. 17.5 is expansion of the Main Street Community Improvement Plan area to include vacant lot, Neff Street, 2026-86. Moved by Councillor Bruno, seconded by Councillor Bagu, that Planning and Development Department Report 2026-86 be received and that the expansion of the Main Street Community Improvement Plan area to include vacant lot and F Street as shown on Appendix A attached here to be approved. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. I don't know if there was an addition to that the clerk helped me with. Thank you, Charlotte. I'll read that first sentence over if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, because comma in between. That the expansion of the Main Street Community Improvement Plan area to include vacant lot and F Street is shown on Appendix A attached here to be referred back to staff to obtain further details and comment on the built form proposed for the property and bring forward a report at a future meeting of council for the expansion's approval.
So that's an amendment to the motion that's on the floor. Councillor Bagu, you find seconding that? Questions on the amendment only? All in favor? That's carried. Now we're to the motion as amended. Questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. 17.7, the 2026 Asset Management Plan Update 2026-90. Moved by Councillor Bagu, seconded by Councillor Bruno. The Public Works Department Report 2026-90 be received. Councillor Bagu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just asset management plan?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just had to sign my signature on that motion, Mr. Mayor, so mine was in left field. A couple questions I have. It's quite a report. It's about 300 pages long. I've read them before. The previous ones have not been as complicated as this one. I couldn't get right into it, but a couple of things I did notice that I have questions that report did not answer was first regarding the fire department. And it considers the fleet 55% very poor. And the equipment to 2025, 18.5% very poor. And I question why our fire department, I think they get like 14% of the city's taxes, why their rate is so poor. And I did talk to the chief before the meeting. He came up to me and I asked him, he says the only reason it's very poor is because of our aerial ladder truck on order. Other than that, everything's great. So I don't understand why the report just couldn't tell me that.
Well, let's go to staff. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to Council, thank you for the question. The report doesn't reflect the updated ladder truck purchase because it's not on the fleet quite yet. When the truck is received in 2028 or 29, it will be reflected at that time. We can note it in future updates, though, that it is on order because I think that's a good note to have.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a couple more. On the parks, the sports structures is a $1.3 million replacement value. It's 100% very poor. Where is it? Our sports structure.
Through you, Mayor, to Council, I'm fairly sure that would be the skate park. I could be incorrect, though. I'm not exactly sure which line you're referring to.
Yeah, I don't know. Replacement value was $1.29 million. So it's quite significant. Well, we'll leave that one anyways.
I can look into that and get back to you.
And my other concern was the playground structures. They're rated 75% very poor. And I question, how can we be very poor, 75%?
Through you, Mayor, to Council, primarily the condition assessment for the playground structures is based on age. So it would just be a function of the age of the playground structures within the city over the estimated useful life. It doesn't necessarily reflect the usability of the playground structure. It would just be the age, just to flag that against the estimated useful life.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think the methodology of this report is somewhat, I don't agree with all of it, actually. The library, that one got me really bad about the collection. Is rated 66% very poor. I got to thinking, what about the museum? They got a lot of old stuff in there. They must get 100% very poor. But you know what I mean? Like the book collection, these are books. And when they wear out, they buy new ones. So how can you consider, I asked the CEO of the library today, and she didn't quite understand why the rating was there also.
I'm gonna go to the CAO for explanation, Counselor, so you can understand what's going on here.
Yeah, through the mayor to the councilor and council, there's two things going on. One is, and I feel bad for Alex because he's doing his job and he's preparing these reports with the consultants based on age, because that's the mechanism to which all municipalities submit for their OCIF funding. So this document actually is prepared in a mechanism to figure out what replacement and what your deferred maintenance is based on age going into your OCF funding. We've had lots of conversations with staff, as staff, to talk about adjusting this, and we're trying to weigh out, does that impact how grants or that get impacted when you apply for them? Public Works does a great job. They have to go through their the different standards that they have to follow, and they go through and they rate all the roads, and they're able to go through and they rate the playground equipment. So these are things that we'll see. That said, as well as Alex pointed out, the infrastructure of playgrounds might be based on age, but when you talk to the Director of Public Works, he would also agree that many of our playground structures, although they look good, they're getting towards that time where we're gonna have to do a real renewal at a number of playgrounds going forward. So even H.H. Knoll, we've had the conversation. Lock 8, we've had the conversation. So some of our big signature parks are going to be real conversations for the next budget going into the next council. It is interesting, we've made great headway on wastewater we talked about. Facilities are in great condition. The roads are in great condition. The basics, those that make the city run, have really been improving under this council. The playground structure, we've been investing in them. This council's put almost $1 million a year into different playgrounds. We built, but the complexity is they've been new playgrounds. Lockview Park was a great example and a beautiful playground. So this council's done great things for playgrounds. The complexity here now is some of our older playgrounds do have to be replaced. So there's a balance. Alex is right. These playgrounds are and Public Works will tell you the playgrounds are safe. But that safe standard, when we do the manual inspection, and that age standard, they come together. And for playgrounds, that will probably be our area that we're gonna have to spend a lot of time on. Council's gonna have to spend a lot of time on in the next council. If we look at the grant funding request that we submitted for, it was about, most recently, I think it's on this council agenda, an update. It had a lot to do with playgrounds, trails, all those areas, because that's the next area that we have to tackle. And not to harp back on municipal service corporations, but this is one of the reasons why the city really needs to look at the municipal service corporation to isolate the debt of the water, wastewater, and storm sewer systems. So we can go out and borrow and fix the stuff, not just the stuff that we need to get to work, that you need to be able to survive and drink, but the things that create community, and that's the playground. So I think we hear what you are saying with respect to the report. Perhaps a little more heartfelt commentary would be helpful with respect to some of these. And I know it's complicated because the Parks and Rec master plan was delayed. And so we don't get to see the ordering of the parks right now. But I know if you go and sit down with the Director of Public Works, he'd be happy to walk you through some of the parks that are most of concern or on his list. But This is going to be a huge part of next council. And it's not that, I just want to repeat, it's not that this council wasn't investing in parks. A lot of new parks and parks were upgraded to a whole new level. There was significant investment. It's just, there's a long way to go on the park side. So it really does need continued funding going forward.
Council. Councilor.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. I guess we should keep our Parks Reserve Fund pretty full then in the future. Just the last one for the library. You used on 10.5 data confidence and improvement plan. The source was 2022. And I did question the CEO of the library why they're using a 2022 stats, and didn't quite know, but it was really good, so I guess I'll accept that. So I gave you just dummy up the report next time. For me, I guess everybody else must understand it. It was just me that a little explanation, especially the fire truck. Like I thought our fire department was doing great. When I read your report, then I sort of went, ugh. I felt sad for our fire chief, but now I don't. But, I just feel sad for the taxpayers. They got to put $3 million for a fire truck. That's coming pretty soon. Okay, I thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No problem, Councilor. Any other questions? Councilor Aquilina.
I know this isn't related to the assets, but because there's such discussion on parks, I just want to confirm that with the Director of Public Works that we're still, when replacing equipment, we're factoring in putting accessible equipment in those parks.
Through your worship. So yes, that's standard in all of our tenders going forward with playground equipment.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bruno?
Thank you, Worship. I wanted to thank Alex and Steve and everyone and Adam and everyone involved in producing this. I mean, when you really think of the gargantuan task this is, I always say, like we're it's a bigger job than in a small town you would think it is, being responsible for this. But I look at it in terms of $30 million in budget. But when you really look at it, you're managing $1.94 billion worth of assets. So it's pretty heady, and it must be pretty heady to keep track of all this stuff. But I'm sure there's charts and maybe not algorithms, but methodologies to do that once you get it down pat, it kind of works. So kudos to you guys, and including the fact that we're doing sort of a 2030, if I understand this right, report now that doesn't need to be in place till 2030. So again, kudos on you guys. I did want to ask Alex about the methodology. So I know the CAO and the Director of Public Works talks about, for example, lining is, a third of the cost of open trench. So does that mean if you spend $10 million on lining, you've taken a pipe that, I don't know, if it's got an asset value of 30 million, because that's what it would cost to replace it, because you're doing open trench. So for 10 million, is it like $30 million of dropping of that heady infrastructure deficit? Like do some things carry multiples like that? Like fix it versus fully take it out and put a brand new one in? Like, I don't know, is that a fair assumption as to how you can, because, when I really look at it, like $1.94 billion looks like a heady amount, even if the lifespan of some of this stuff is 40, 50 years for a community our size. So I'm just wondering if it's not ways to trick the system, it's a way to fulfill the system. but at a better price, but it ups the value more in a multiple than a direct straight line.
Alex?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through you to the council. To your question, I would say that those factors are definitely considered in the setting of the replacement costs and replacement value and replacement timelines of all these assets. The lining is definitely a more cost-effective solution to the replacement for wastewater and water pipes, and those would be factored in and reflected in the replacement costs as well, those replacement types.
And I guess there's one other one, and I didn't look in the schedule in that level of detail that my colleague here did, but I'm just, something like the Port Colborne grain mill.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, there's a fix it and there's a tear it down. So is the grain mill in the 1.94 billion?
Through the mayor to council, yes, the grain terminal is contained within the 1.94 billion. However, to your point, there's some ambiguity as to what the future of the grain terminal looks like. And the intended direction per the asset management report would be to maintain the current state, not to improve on it. So that's just reflected based on the ambiguity.
I guess because I was thinking, and I read somewhere maybe in the past that, you know, in some cases, decommissioning things actually makes a gain on asset management, right? Because it's no longer the liability.
No.
No. Well, if you have less assets, there's less assets to maintain.
Well, through the mayor to council, there is some truth to that, because the lower denominator of very poor assets will kind of lead to gains in the very good, just addition by subtraction, if you will. But
yes,
that's essentially it. The answer is long answer, short question, yes.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
CAO.
If I'll just add something to council. So like if you do look at the details, like the water network says that you need about $150 million to replace the very poor, right? And when you look at the Municipal Service Corp, working with the Director of Public Works, we're saying there's different ways to deal with, as you were saying, Councillor, some of the assets. So the total to deal with water, wastewater, and storm going forward is about 113 million. Even though just water alone would be 153 if you did complete replacement. So the calculation that this model is done, that is done by other municipalities, which we have to submit for grants, that methodology is based on replacement. Steve, our Director of Public Works, and other team members make those decisions on how to replace based on the most cost-effective manner. And wastewater was one of the best examples. It cost us almost $3 million to fully replace a pipe, a kilometer. And we did 30 for almost $10 million. 30 kilometers for almost 10 million. So all of those went from very poor to very good in this last asset. And we'll do the next with water. And you'll notice that we're not here asking for a change in our asset management plan or asset management funding plan, because council's already given us direction on how to do that, and the plan's working. So,
Councillor Bonner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with the CAO's idea of putting some more warm and fuzzy things in there, because I see a line here that says council. Apparently 55% of us are very good and 45 are either poor or very poor. One of you put some names in there, it might be helpful of, you know. So anyways, just saying.
Thank you, Councillor. Some levity in a late night. So in dealing with us both here and at the region over the last 8 years and my years as councillor, one thing you got to remember is, like, you take a hockey rink or a swimming pool, and their expected, or their life expectancy is X or Y. But the way those are used with, you know, the heat, the cold, the moisture in a pool, and the number of people that go in and out, and you get one building full of ice, they actually probably don't last without putting way more money in it. It usually it's less cost to build new than trying to repair these things. And I think we saw that when we replaced our 3 facilities. And they weren't super, super old except for the West Side Arena. But you take something like the library, you know, Alex may have a chart there that says, you know, you're gonna get 50 years out of this. We may get 100 years out of it, because to repair it is not that much money, because it's just like your house, people going in and out. It's normally cooled in the summer, it's heated in the winter. You don't have those extremes that really create buildings to deteriorate faster than others. That's one thing I've learned over the years is, although you look at these and it kind of scares you, it doesn't necessarily tell the true story. Because in essence, the pipe that we actually reline today, we still may have to go in and do a kilometer in 10 years because, you know, the outside of the pipe is still the old 50-year-old pipe, but it finally does collapse or something happens. We're hoping not, but it could. So you really got to look at the actual cost to replace, but we've been able to find a way to repair and keep it longer and to actually add life to it. So in a lot of your buildings that can happen, or a lot of your structures, where other things like playground equipment, they actually have a lifespan on them and they're stamped in it, that you have to replace them after so many years, no matter, they could be like brand new because nobody's used them, but you have to replace them based on the rules of the province. So, you know, there's things that you have to replace at a certain time. Fire trucks are another thing. They're very, very stringent on the rules with regards to fire equipment. So you're actually replacing those on that exact date that Alex uses. Where other facilities, you know, you might get 50 years out of a 30-year building or whatever it may be. So some of it you got to take with a grain of salt on how staff brings it to us. It is a provincial mandate the way we do this for our funding. So is it right, is it wrong? I don't agree with some of the parts to it, whether it's here or at the region, based on how staff uses it. But for us here on our OPCF funding is that this is how we have to do it. So anyways, other than that, further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Alex. Planning Department Process Improvements 2026-91. If I could have Councillors Bruno and Elliott move that Planning and Development Department Report 2026-91 be received, and Council endorse the implementation of a formalized approach to developer-led pre-application community meetings with details to be developed and administered by staff. Councillor Bruno, you pulled this. Questions?
We resolved it during the day in a conversation.
You're all
after I'd
set.
submitted. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor?
Can I just say that this is a step forward in stabilizing how developers will interact with the people. I know, Councillor Brony, you've had many meetings, and other councillors have, with constituents out there on, you know, subdivisions or whatever. This is a real good thing, real good thing.
Kudos.
Thanks, staff, for bringing that forward.
Kudos. Thanks, Planning Department. Further questions? All in favor? That's carried. Staff remarks. We are coming near the end, and it's only 20 to 10. Madam Clerk, anything this evening?
Yes, I have a few items this evening. This particular message is for the members of the public. Are you registered to vote? Make sure you're on the voters list for the municipal election on October 26th. Check, update, or add yourself to the list by August 12th at registertovoteon.ca. Next, the candidate nomination period for the 2026 municipal election is open. Nomination packages are currently available for pickup at City Hall from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. Nominations can be filed in person by appointment. To book a nomination filing appointment, contact the election coordinator by email at election@portcolborne.ca or by phone at 905-228-8120. For more information about the 2026 municipal election, visit portcolborne.ca/votes. Lastly, myself and the Deputy Clerk, Jessica Beaupre, attended the AMCTO 2026 conference in Huntsville from June 7th to 10th, which brought together municipal professionals from across Ontario to share best practices, emerging issues, and practical tools for local government. The sessions concentrated on key municipal priorities such as governance, accountability, and adapting to increasing operational and legal complexities municipalities are facing. A significant focus was placed on municipal election preparedness, including voter list management, managing complex election scenarios, and mitigating risks related to compliance, Overall, the conference reinforced the importance of proactive planning for the 2026 municipal elections and maintaining strong governance practices to effectively respond to the growing demands on municipalities. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things in your report. You noted our Community Safety Day. I just want to echo that. The event was a huge success. We had a full house through the entire event. I want to thank First Ontario Credit Union for their support. We donated 6 bicycles to children through the bike fair, the bike rodeo. I want to thank staff for their dedication to the event. They put a lot of time in preparing and hosting our guests there. So they did a tremendous job, and I want to thank them. On another note, mandatory compliance deadline for all Ontario firefighters to meet Level 1 NFPA certification is July 1st, 2026. I'm pleased to announce that all of our Port Colborne Fire and Emergency Service full-time and volunteer firefighters have met the compliance deadline. I want to thank Training Officer Wayne Benner for his dedication through this process. When I first came here, we weren't sure we were going to meet the deadline, and we're there. And I just want to thank him. Technical rescue deadline, which is our high-angle rope rescue, water, elevator rescue, hazardous material rescue. That deadline is July 1st, 2028. We are well positioned to be in compliance of this deadline. I want to just thank Council for their continued support. Attaining mandatory compliance deadlines would have been difficult without your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Steve?
Yes, so our water main relining program is in full swing, with the majority of Ulmer Avenue and Oakwood Street already lined and awaiting commissioning, while the temporary water connections and shafts on Clarence Street have been completed and are awaiting lining. This construction is planned to run through the summer and into the fall, with an anticipated completion date in September. While driving around the canal area, you may have noticed the newly installed signage boards, which indicate which bridges are up or down. This is a project that the Niagara Region's transportation team was able to expedite based on the city's concerns for traffic backups within the area. Along with this, they are also monitoring traffic habits on either side of the bridges to better coordinate the traffic signal timing, which will be implemented later this year. On behalf of everyone, I really want to thank the Region's transportation team and the St. Lawrence Seaway for working with us and all their efforts, because this does impact all of our residents' day-to-day commutes as well. So we appreciate that. And lastly, I just wanted to note that Main Street West will be closed on July 7th to conduct repairs on the railway just west of the Weir Bridge, and it's planned for a one-day closure at this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Mr. Long?
Nothing this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Eric?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, to Council. Just a reminder, this afternoon, 2 invitations were sent from our colleague Jasmine in the Communications Department with respect to open houses for the city's new official plan. We are working right now with a consultant on a draft of that plan and a draft of the schedules associated with it. We expect to have those publicly available to share on the website and at a meeting. The first meeting is July 16th from 2 until 6 p.m. We also have a meeting the following week, July 22nd, from 3 to 7 p.m. Open to the public. We're hoping anyone interested will come out to the meeting, and the invitation has been extended to Council. I know it's tight timing with various other commitments and Canal Days coming up, but to keep us on track and moving towards approval in November, that's the dates that we've landed on for this. And I'll just apologize by saying that I'll probably remind everyone about this again at the next meeting in July 14th. Thanks.
Thanks, Eric. Adam, anything tonight? You're all set. Thank you. That's finance. Madam Deputy Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. As our city clerk said, I attended the AMCTO conference in Huntsville with her this year. It was a great experience. It's my second time going to the conference, and I find I always learn so many things. And as she said, there was a big focus on elections this year, which I found very useful and helpful. A lot of the times we had discussions with folks from all across Ontario, who come to this conference, and it's very interesting to hear their unique challenges and perspectives depending on where in Ontario you're located and how big your municipality is or how small your municipality is. So there's a lot to be learned from those discussions with our peers. So yeah, it was a great conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. CAO?
Thank you. A couple things going on in the next couple of weeks. I'll start with the first one. Our manager of rec reminded me to put out a message. July 1st, Canada Day celebrations, important day. Our Port Colborne Optimists will be having events at H.H. Knoll Lakeview Park, and the city has fireworks at 10 p.m. on West Street, so we hope to see everybody for that. We have a number of open houses that maybe are a little bit before the planning open houses by about a month. We have the Health and Wellness Action Plan open houses on June 24th and 25th. On June 24th, the Wednesday, it's from 2 to 6. Tomorrow. Okay, from 2 to 6. That's going to be at City Hall. On the Thursday, on the 25th, it's from 3 to 7, and it's at the Valley Health and Wellness Center. And a reminder, there are questionnaires that you can do online, or you can go to any of our city facilities, as well as we've just started the water, wastewater, MSC open houses. So June 30th, Tuesday, June 30th, from 2 to 6, that'll be at City Hall. And on Monday, July 6th, from 3 to 7, that'll be at the Valley Health and Wellness Center. And there'll be a survey launched tomorrow that people can fill out, and we look forward to getting any comments you have with respect to that. And just last, you may have seen it in a social media or a notification that went around. Most of the community probably doesn't know too much about it, but our proposal to work with MPACT on a new property tax, water, and wastewater billing system has been approved. It's been approved by MPAC. It's been approved by the Minister of Finance to be able to put this together. We've been working with them for a couple years to see if they'd be willing to do it. There's really the software system that we've used for a number of years is becoming to end of life. And we've found an enormous community of municipalities that want to join in. So the city of Niagara Falls and the city of Hamilton have joined in. So the three of us with MPAC will be building that, which we hope municipalities across the province will jump on and use. And everybody working together creates a cost-effective way to be able to do this. And we know when you go online, you can disagree with the assessment, but the technology is pretty good that MPAC has. So been a great partner to work with on this project.
Good announcement. Thank you. Mr. Law.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to pick up on the CAO's comments, the city of Port Colborne and our CAO were recognized at the FCM conference in Edmonton for this MPAC project in partnership with Niagara Falls and Hamilton. So well done us.
Yes, thank you. Councilors' items. Councilor Bodner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one. I think I've been, well, I'll say hounding the clerks and our manager communications about getting the information out that we've actually changed our ward boundaries and, down to 3 wards and everything, because I continually run into people that had no idea we did this. And people that I consider tuned in to most things, no idea. And maybe because we live it, and we expect people to have picked up on it. Anyways, I had an email from Jasmine today listing all of the stuff we've done to get the message out, and I'm assured that there's a bunch more coming. But I guess I don't know what else to do as far as letting people know that there's changes out there. So anyways, I'm satisfied. I'll get off your backs for, getting out there and telling people, because if they don't know by all the stuff we're going to be doing, then maybe they don't vote anyway and they don't care. So, it sounds good. I think we'll get the word out.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Hoyle.
June 4th to 7th, I attended the FCM in Edmonton. A few things, myself and the Director of Public Works had some conversations with the Green Municipal Fund. I believe so did others that were there with us. Focus on the tree planting opportunities. They've increased their tree, how you say, the trees that we can donate and purchase. Donate, I should say. The other thing I took in was the urban forest management and canopy expansion study tour. Since then, I've had a couple emails with Councillor Tang from Edmonton. There right now, Edmonton is looking for municipalities on what they're doing with their canopies. So I've sent her a link to ours so she can review. Besides that, we met with many other federal and provincial people, and it was just a good event to get a good trade session for us. Also on June 12th, I attended the Tickle Your Ribs by the Portland Wainfleet Chamber. It was a whiskey run. It was a comedy night. It was an evening of packed with laughter and great food. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Elliott.
Just a couple quick things. Kudos to Public Works to work with the region to get those lights at the bridges. I know I just told Steve that the one wasn't working on Main Street going eastbound. The old light's gone. The new lights aren't hooked up. I almost missed Mellenby when I realized that the bridge was up. Because there was no lights flashing, I was like, okay, just in a daze, and almost drove past. Long overdue, but the timing couldn't be better because it's summertime now and get people aware of how the new system works. So that's been great. And I just wanted to ask Councillor Bodner which of our council is at the end of their life expectancy and to be replaced. So I don't know if you're gonna do an assessment and let us know later. I got a list, buddy. I got a list. I just want to say thanks for that in advance. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Your Worship. I got three tonight. Through you to the Director of Public Works. Steve, I brought this up before. The cenotaph at King and Neff. I think we all see that as hallowed ground, and it's got great grass that grows really long and really thick, but when it's cut, it's a hayfield. And so if we could just do something there about either double cutting it, slower cutting it, it's not that big a patch of property if it has to be raked, but I think we could always do better on that, if you could look at that. Again, to the Director of Public Works, I'm not sure if you can find this out because it's not really a City of Port Colborne problem. It's probably more a CNP problem. So whoever can do this, I certainly know that in about the last 3 weeks, every week, between, I can't tell you the day, it's a different day, but we get power surges or off and on. And last week it was out for about 20 minutes. And so I know I've gotten a couple calls from as far away as Delhi and Elm. Don't know that it got down to Clarence Street, but also over in like Knoll Street north of Maine. So if we could find out what's going on there, because sort of 3 weeks in a row should be telling of something that's going on. So I don't know if you could look into that for me. I could pass that on. And finally, I don't know if others have experienced this, but usually when we have roads under construction, they sort of get a base coat and you wait to pave them. But This is particularly Welland Street from the Main Street Bridge through to the Middle Bridge. If anybody's driven that laneway going north to south, there's basically only a couple feet of asphalt left from the center line, and then it's all stone all the way down. And I know it's been problematic in front of the Middle Bridge with it scouring out and more stone having to be added. And it just seems like from there down, the contractor has paved over what he's trenched to Kalali East, but that whole section along the lock, I would just like to see it paved. Like, we're getting into July, and certainly by canal days, I'm concerned that maybe they're not overlaying it with asphalt because they're waiting for pressure testing, whether that be the tunnel or all of that before they surface coat it. But like, you can see vehicles sort of now are operating two wheels on the lane, and it's starting to get rutted, and it's such a well-traveled area. I don't know if we could see what's going on there.
Steve?
Yes, to your worship. So I know our staff have been in contact with the region and the contractor about filling up those locations, more specifically around the bridge and the areas that are wearing down quite quicker. They do have one extra section of pipe to install at the intersection of Kalali and Welland, so there will be another shutdown for that to happen. What we'll do is we'll touch base with the contractor and determine if they are close to being able to put asphalt down, then we should wait for that time. But if not, if it's for an extended duration, we'll look at putting additional granular there to level the road a little bit more. But our team has been in contact with them to remind them that Canal Days is around the corner too, then we want it paved.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Baggett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a few here. I missed the last council meeting, so. First one was the streetlights at the corner of Clarence Street and Welland Street. They used to be on a sensor coming off of Welland Street to turn left or right on Clarence. Now that doesn't happen anymore. They're on a regular timer. And I just wondered whether we could get the region to put them back on a timer like they were before. And there was no problems before, because it's frustrating when you're coming down Clarence Street and you get a red light. There's nobody on Welland Street most of the time.
Through you, your worship. So we have looked at this. I know Councillor Brodner brought this up previously. There are underground wires that were disconnected, so there's a fault with them. So they're not actually working right now. And that's one of the reasons why the region ended up putting it onto a timed system. What they're doing right now is waiting for some traffic studies to come back. So they're actually counting vehicles that are coming through to determine if those lights would actually be needed in that intersection, or if they need to be timed in a different fashion. So they are doing that this summer, and then once we have those results, we would go ahead with either fixing those or moving to the next step, depending on what the outcome is. So as long as council's okay with that and waiting until those results come, then we would be able to do those repairs at that time.
As long as I know it's coming, I'm happy about that. Next one is, actually I contacted you and Curtis about this one. What do people do when they have a broken tree supports on their new plantings? Like, I know that Roshamansky Park over the winter, quite a few of the supports are busted. And over the winter, and this last windstorm we had, even one of my boulevard broke, but I'll call that one in. But if we could get somebody to take a look at some of the tree supports, especially the park there, Roshamansky, I'd appreciate it. This one here, you and I already talked about it. I had calls from a woman, her and her friend, who have limited mobility, have walkers. They try to go to Sunset Park off of Ash Street. You know, it was a late winter, early spring, and the gravel there made it quite hard for them to travel, go into the park under the path. And I talked about whether we could put a path there from extend to Ash, and I'll let you update council because they're probably not aware of it.
Steve?
Yes, so we have looked at multiple options, one being that we would install just a trail system, so an asphalt trail from Schofield all the way into the existing asphalt trail system. Then we would backfill it with soil. We'd end up putting hydro seed down, so it'd be a grassed area with some trees. We'd also move the front-facing sign so that everyone knows that that's Sunset Park as well. We're looking at potential cost of that, being around $35,000. That would also include some of the concrete sidewalk, because we would have to extend it across that right-of-way at that point. Another option is to put some parking in that area. It is extremely tight, though, to have that parking in that location. We're not going to get mini stalls. And then we also would cause some drainage issues from putting asphalt in a condensed area when the two adjacent buildings are at very higher elevations. So it'd be staff recommendation, if we're looking at this from an accessibility standpoint, and we're trying to get people from Schofield Avenue to the park and to the trail system, that we would put the asphalt trail in. And as long as council's okay with that, we'd be able to move forward with that motion.
Makes a lot of sense, Steve.
Yep.
That's, I mean, that's, I live in that neighborhood, so I've been asked that in my backyard from people, but yeah, you know, I've said that staff are looking at extending the trail right to the street, putting the sidewalk level across, and it's just pedestrian access.
Yep.
There's lots of parking in that area for kids playing soccer and practice and stuff.
Correct, there is still some on-street parking on Schofield,
Yeah,
on Ash, on Stanley.
Ash on both sides, there's, I think, only one driveway and a garage, so tons of parking. So glad you brought that up, Ken.
Okay, I appreciate that, so I guess council discussed it, and I guess that's okay.
Yeah.
So, we'll follow you from there. There was one more. I'm under the impression that staff were making a master plan for water, wastewater, and storm sewers. I'm just questioning why we're doing that now, when we're trying to do all this other stuff with the water and wastewater. And in a perfect world, it would all mesh out together, but will we get a perfect world where they all mesh together?
CAO?
Through the mayor to the councilor, I think the world's pretty good. But I guess in all seriousness, we had to take a look at both the asset management plan as well as the infrastructure needs study when we were doing the business case for the MSC, because we had to ascertain what the future borrowing requirements were going to be. So the agenda for this month and this meeting and the next meeting are pretty full. And I think our plan is that the detail of all of those projects, which will come to council in August. So it actually all comes together, rhymes together, I guess, in a way, because we had to, you can't put forward a business plan if you don't know how much money you're gonna potentially need to come up with, and you can't do that unless you know what needs to be done. The reality is, this information was presented in a certain form a year ago, and now it's just been refined further. So council's seen it all, it's refined, and it goes to the questions that you and other councilors were asking is, are there better ways to fix it other than just digging up the street? And that's what Steve will be presenting, some more ways that bring the cost down to become more efficient, to be able to do some of this work. So you're gonna see one of Steve's 2-hour blockbuster presentations in August.
Counselor?
Can't wait for August. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Aquilina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few updates on my deputy mayor duties. So May 26th, I attended on behalf of council the Community Connect, their 1 year of community service. The lady that created this, her name is Morgan Cooper, and I think people would know her from Special Olympics, and she's done some other things. So I've talked to her. She's thinking about coming to council to do a presentation. If anybody's interested, they have a good website that gives a lot of information, and people can donate like gift certificates and things like that. So it is a registered charity. On June 4th, I attended the Niagara Industrial Association breakfast and gave some opening remarks on behalf of council again. They were a little disappointed Bram Cotton wasn't there so there might be some nudges going against him in coming up. June 6th, the CARES Disability Services had an event, Belongathon 2026. It's another disability group. They have several, Kitchener, I think Hamilton, we're all doing a walk or ride if you couldn't walk a long distance, and they were heading down from H.H. Knoll to West Side, and they were going to look at the cruise ship that was there, so they were very excited about that. I got a t-shirt. And tomorrow I will be attending the Girl Guide Award ceremony, and I'm actually kind of excited about that because I'm the only female, so girl power, I can promote that.
Were you a girl guide?
I wasn't, but my daughter. Oh, actually, I was a brownie a long time ago, and then my one daughter was a Girl Guide for a number of years, and so there's Girl Guides, Pathfinders, and Rangers all getting awards tomorrow night. So that's my Deputy Mayor update. Steve, if I can just follow up on Councillor Baguio's remarks about Welland Street. And so the traffic study, if it's done in the summer, is it going to affect anything because we've got all the beach traffic heading to Nickel Beach? Is it going to skew the data?
Yep, through you, Mr. Mayor, it definitely will. It'll provide a different context. In a lot of cases, we kind of want to know what that high flow rate is going to be and what the worst case scenarios are going to be and how that's going to operate through that area. So it is a good time to be able to collect that data because we will get some worst case scenarios.
But then is the timing, if it's based on that data, then for the rest of the months through the year, we're going to be seeing frequent, we're seeing now, frequent times where it's a red light and there's no traffic coming in on the other side, right?
Through your worship. For the most part, what I see happening is when those traffic counts happen, there will be a means for Welland Street to be flagged to access a green light when there's a car that goes onto a pad. And that Clarence Street should be, as the majority, a green light the entire time. That's what I would foresee as my observations, that traffic on Clarence Street is the primary roadway. It should maintain green for as much as possible. When someone comes up to Welland, which is less frequent, that's when the light should flag in that intersection. So that's how I would foresee this playing out, but some of the data will tell us if we're right or wrong and how long the greens or reds should actually be for those periods. So we might have 5 cars that queue up on Welland Street and we want a certain amount of timing to make sure that they progress through versus just having enough time for 1 or 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of we'll revert back to what it was previous.
Exactly. Okay. That's where I'm thinking it'll go. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then this is for you again, Steve. Pleasant Beach, the former Capri has been sold and is under new ownership and is going to be called the Fowler Toad Pizza Bar and Grill. Just so you know. But
is that on the menu?
That's their name. However, there's a new build across from it, which has a driveway coming down. And so the parking for the beach, I think is, road end, I think is impacted, and it's very hard to see, like, I don't know where the parking spots are. I don't know if they were ever lined before, or it's just the signs. But every time I go down there, which isn't bad, but we're getting to the point where elementary schools and like are going to be out of school for the summer, and there's a lot of the utility vehicles for the new builds in those spots. So I just wasn't sure if there was a reduction there. And with the Fowler Toad Pizza Bar and Grill opening, they're going to be serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So there's going to be traffic there like all day long. And I know they have designated spots, but if it gets busy, you know. So anyways, I just wanted to check in on what the status of those spots were.
Through your worship. So what I can do is I can touch base with our building department to kind of determine what the approvals were for the driveway access and determine if there was anything impacting the parking stalls. And based on that, we could go to a lower frequency of timing if that's what council wanted, to have like 2-hour parking there. To keep people moving in and out. But at the same time, when people are going to have supper or lunch or dinner, they're probably under that 2 hours right now anyways, right? It's something that we could probably monitor throughout the summer too, to see what the impacts are before reacting, before we know exactly what'll happen. But so I can follow up with yourself and council just to determine what the outcome is of that property being built.
Okay, I just don't want, like with the Capri, there was a lot of traffic there in the evening hours. So those spots for the road end parking, were vacant, but then, there was a lot going on, fire lanes and things like that. So I just want to make sure there's something in place for the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, we're on to bylaws. So we have two separate motions tonight due to Councillor Beauregard's conflict and my own conflict. So we'll vote on the 2-item bylaws where the conflicts are first, and Councillor Aquilino will step in as chair, and then I'll do the remainder of the bylaws. So just pass it. You can do it from your seat, Councillor. Let's give you that. Mark's information. Yep.
Okay, so bylaw, I'm going to have Councillor Hoyle be the mover and Councillor Elliott be the seconder, that the following bylaws be passed and enacted as presented. Bylaw number 7470/54/26 and bylaw number 7471/55/26. Any questions? Comments? I see none. Do we vote? All in favor? Thank you. Okay, carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. So the following bylaws, if I could have Councillor Bodner and Aquilina move. Bylaw 74665026, 74675126, 74685226, 74695326, 74725626, 74735726, 74745826, and finally 74755926. That the following bylaws be passed and acted as presented. Questions? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Well, we could wait 45 minutes and do a procedural motion if you want, council. But anyways, we won't. So this time, thank you for those that were here tonight. It was a long meeting. We got a lot accomplished, as you can see under the bylaws section of the meeting. But for those watching at home, we'll be back on July 14th, yeah. God, the summer's going quick. July 14th, and thank you for those that are attending here this evening. We are now adjourned.